The moon never judges, it only watches, as wolves love, betray, and bleed beneath her light. Prologue. The Night of Blood. The crimson moon hung heavy over Silverfang Castle, bloated and wrong, as if the sky itself bled. Morgan had seen many moons in her 23 years, silver ones that sang of peace, golden ones that promised abundance, even the rare blue moon that whispered of magic. But never this. Never a moon the colour of fresh wounds. She pressed herself against the cold stone wall of the servants' corridor, her breath coming in short, controlled bursts. Around her, the castle screamed. Not metaphorically, actual screams tore through the halls, punctuated by snarls and the wet sounds of flesh tearing. The rogues had come like a plague, pouring through breached gates that should have held against an army. Someone had betrayed them. Someone had opened those gates. Morgan's silver eyes, the mark that had branded her an outcast from birth, reflected the torchlight as she moved through the chaos. She was Omega, the lowest rank, meant to be subservient and small. But Morgan had never been good at being what she was meant to be. Her father had taught her that, before the pack elders exiled him for the crime of loving a woman with moonlight in her veins. A guard stumbled past her, his throat opened, hands clutching uselessly at the tide of red. Morgan caught him, lowered him gently, and closed his eyes when the light left them. She'd known him. Caius Fenro. He'd snuck her extra portions when she was a hungry child in the kitchens. The castle was falling. The Alpha and his Luna were... Morgan's heart clenched. She knew what she would find, but she had to try. She had to reach them. She ran through corridors she'd cleaned 1,000 times, past tapestries now splattered with blood, past bodies of wolves she'd served beside. The royal wing loomed ahead, and the sounds there were worse, purposeful, organized. This wasn't random slaughter. This was execution. The doors to the Alpha's chambers hung open, splintered. Morgan stopped at the threshold. Her wolf whimpered inside her, recognizing the scent of death, the wrongness of it all. But she forced herself to look. Alpha Theron lay sprawled across the floor, his chest torn open, his eyes still open in permanent surprise. Luna Astrid was beside him, her elegant throat slashed, one hand stretched toward her mate even in death. Their bond had been legendary, the kind that made even cynical Omegas believe in fated mates. And standing over them, his muzzle still dripping, was Alpha Draven. Morgan knew him. Everyone in the kingdom knew Draven, Theron's cousin, his most trusted general, the wolf who'd defended their borders for 20 years. The wolf who'd apparently decided those borders should be his. "Well," Draven said, shifting back to human form with practiced ease. Blood slicked his chest, and he didn't bother wiping it away. The little silver-eyed freak. Come to witness history? Morgan said nothing. Her eyes scanned the room, looking for... there. Behind the Luna's dressing screen, she caught the faintest tremor of fabric. Her heart hammered, but she kept her face blank, her posture submissive. Everything an Omega should be. Nothing to say? Draven stepped over Theron's body without looking down. Your precious Alpha is dead. His weak rule is over. I'm doing what he never had the spine to do, making us strong, making us feared. You're making us murderers, Morgan said quietly. Draven laughed, a sound like breaking glass. We're wolves, little Omega. We've always been murderers. We just pretended otherwise for too long. He moved closer, and Morgan could smell the blood on him, thick and coppery. But don't worry. I'm not wasteful. Those who submit will live. Those who don't. He gestured at the bodies. Behind the screen, the fabric trembled again. The pups. They were there. Luca and Alaric, the twin heirs, barely 6 years old. Morgan made a decision. She dropped to her knees, bowing her head in the ultimate gesture of submission. "Alpha," she whispered, letting her voice shake. "Please, I'm no one. Just an Omega. Spare me." Draven studied her for a long moment, then snorted. "That's what I thought. Go. Join the others in the courtyard. If you run, my wolves will hunt you for sport." Morgan shuffled backward, keeping her head down, playing the terrified Omega to perfection. It wasn't hard. Terror was real enough. But beneath it, her mind raced. She backed out of the room, turned, and ran, but not toward the courtyard. She circled around through the servants' passages, the hidden veins of the castle that no noble ever noticed. She knew them all. Every shortcut, every hidden door, every way to appear and disappear like smoke. She emerged behind the dressing screen, just as Draven's footsteps faded down the hall. The pups stared up at her with identical eyes, their mother's eyes, deep amber with flecks of gold. Luca, the elder by 3 minutes, had his arms wrapped around Alaric, trying to shield him even though they were the same size. Blood speckled their nightclothes, their parents' blood. "Mother," Alaric whimpered, reaching past Luca toward where Luna Astrid's body lay. "Shh." Morgan knelt before them, her silver eyes meeting Luca's amber ones. The boy was trembling, but he didn't cry, already trying to be strong, already trying to be alpha. "Listen to me. Both of you. Listen very carefully. Are they—" Luca couldn't finish the question. "Yes." Morgan wouldn't lie to them. Lies were for later, for when they needed comfort. Right now, they needed truth. "Your parents are gone, and the wolves who killed them will kill you too if they find you." "Uncle Draven," Luca said, and there was something in his voice, not quite hate yet, but the seed of it. He was standing over them. Smart boy. Morgan had suspected he'd seen. "We have to leave," she said, "right now, and we can't ever come back." "But this is our home." Alaric's voice broke. Morgan reached out and gripped both boys by the shoulders. "Your home is gone, but I will keep you safe, I swear it. On my blood, on my wolf, on my life. I will keep you alive." "Why?" Luca searched her face. "Why would you save us? You're just an Omega." Morgan smiled, sharp and bitter. "Yes, just an Omega, but I knew your mother when she was young, before she was Luna. She was kind to me when no one else was." She swallowed hard. "And I will not let her sons die in the place where she fell." Screams echoed from deeper in the castle. They were running out of time. "We need to go. Now." Morgan rose, pulling the pups up with her. "Stay close. Stay silent. If I tell you to run, you run. If I tell you to hide, you hide. Understand?" Both boys nodded. Morgan led them into the servants' passages, through darkness that smelled of stone and old fears. Behind them, Silverfang Castle burned with betrayal and blood. Ahead lay the wild woods, the lawless places where outcasts went to die. But Morgan had no intention of dying. She had 2 pups to raise, 2 princes to protect, and a vow written in blood and moonlight. Someday they would return. Someday the sons of Theron would reclaim their throne. And someday Alpha Draven would learn that even Omegas could be dangerous when you took everything from them. The crimson moon watched them disappear into the forest, 3 small figures against an enormous darkness. And if the moon could speak, it might have whispered a warning to those who thought themselves victorious. The night of blood was not an ending. It was a beginning. Chapter 1. The Forest Sanctuary. 15 years had passed since the night of blood, but Morgan still dreamed of it. In her dreams, she was always too slow. always too late. She reached the chambers after the killing was done, or she reached them before and watched, paralyzed, as Draven's claws descended. Sometimes, in the worst dreams, she was the one holding the knife. She woke gasping, her silver eyes snapping open to the familiar darkness of the cabin. Morning light filtered through gaps in the wooden walls, painting stripes across her small room. Beside her bed, propped against the wall, was the staff she'd carved from ironwood, 6 feet of dense, dark wood that had saved her life more times than she could count. Morgan sat up slowly, rolling her shoulders to ease the stiffness. 38 years old, and her body felt ancient. The forest was not kind to wolves who lived outside pack protection. Every winter was harder. Every fight took longer to recover from. A crash from downstairs made her bolt upright. Then laughter, deep, male and familiar. Morgan relaxed fractionally. Just the boys. Not boys anymore, she corrected herself. Luca and Alaric were 21 now, full-grown males with alpha blood singing in their veins. The cabin that had once seemed spacious now felt cramped with their presence. She dressed quickly in practical clothes. Leather pants, a wool tunic, boots worn soft from years of use. Her silver hair, still thick despite her age, she braided back from her face. The silver eyes that marked her as cursed stared back from the small, cracked mirror hung on the wall. Freak, the pack had called her. Moonblood, cursed one. She'd heard worse since then. Downstairs, she found exactly what she'd expected. Luca and Alaric wrestling on the floor, testing strength and dominance the way young males had since the first wolf walked upright. They'd knocked over the table in the process, scattering the breakfast she'd prepared before dawn. Really? Morgan crossed her arms, leaning against the doorframe. Both young men froze, looking up at her with guilty expressions that would have been comical if they weren't sprawled in her spilled breakfast. Luca recovered first. He always did. "Training," he said, grinning as he pushed himself up. "We were training? You were wasting food." Morgan moved past them to right the table. "There are hungry rogues in these woods who'd kill for half of what you just spilled." "Sorry, Morgan." Alaric, always the more contrite of the two, scrambled to help clean up. "We'll hunt extra today. Replace what we wasted." Morgan softened slightly. Alaric was like that, quick to apologize, eager to please, his mother's gentleness surviving in him despite everything. Luca, though, Luca was pure alpha, stubborn, proud, fierce. His father's son in every way that mattered. And increasingly, Morgan found it difficult to look at him without feeling something she had no right to feel. He'd grown tall, taller than his father had been, with broad shoulders and the kind of presence that made other wolves instinctively defer. His hair was dark, nearly black, and fell to his shoulders in the wild way of wolves who didn't bother with pack propriety. His eyes, though, those amber eyes with gold flecks, they tracked her every movement with an intensity that made her skin prickle. "You didn't sleep again," Luca said, studying her face. "I slept fine." "You're a terrible liar." Morgan turned away, focusing on salvaging what food she could. "I'm fine, Luca. Don't mother me. Someone has to, since you spend all your time mothering us." There was an edge to his voice, something that had been creeping in over the past year. Frustration, restlessness. The alpha in him was waking fully, and their small cabin, their hidden existence, was starting to chafe. "I told you both," Morgan said quietly. "When you're ready to leave, I won't stop you. You're grown men now. You can make your own choices." "And go where?" Luca's voice rose. back to Silverfang, where Draven sits on our father's throne. Out into pack territories where they'd kill us on sight for being rogues. We're trapped here, Morgan. We've been trapped for 15 years. You're alive. Morgan's voice came out sharper than intended. Which is more than you'd be if I'd let Draven find you that night. Silence fell, heavy and uncomfortable. Alaric cleared his throat. Luca doesn't mean it like that. We're grateful. You saved us. You raised us. We owe you everything. You owe me nothing. Morgan set down the bowl she'd been holding carefully. You were children. I made a choice. That's all. It wasn't just a choice. Luca moved closer, and Morgan fought the urge to step back. You gave up everything for us. Your life, your freedom, even the chance for a mate, for pups of your own. I didn't want those things. Liar. But his voice was softer now. You dream about it, don't you? About that night. About my parents. Morgan's jaw tightened. What I dream about is none of your concern. You loved him. It wasn't a question. My father. I've seen the way your face changes when we ask about him. You loved him. For a moment, Morgan considered lying. Then she realized there was no point. These boys, no, these men, they'd lived with her for 15 years. They knew her too well. I loved him, she admitted quietly. Not the way your mother did. I was too young, and he was my alpha. But yes, I loved him. He was kind to me when kindness was rare. Luca nodded slowly, something unreadable passing across his face. And now you're stuck with us. His sons. Living reminders of what you lost. No. Morgan looked up, meeting his eyes directly. You're not reminders of loss. You're reminders of why I fight, why I survive. She glanced between them both. You are my pack. The only pack I want. Alaric smiled, warm and genuine, but Luca's expression remained complicated, emotions warring behind his eyes. Before anyone could speak, a howl split the morning air. All three of them froze. Morgan's hand went automatically to her staff. Luca and Alaric shifted into defensive positions, their training evident in every movement. The howl came again, closer, definitely closer. And it wasn't alone. Morgan could hear at least 4 distinct voices, maybe more. Rogues, Alaric breathed. No! Morgan's enhanced hearing picked up something beneath the howls. Organization, discipline. Worse. Pack wolves, scouts probably. Dravens? Luca's voice went flat, deadly. Possibly. Or another pack's territory patrol. Morgan moved quickly, gathering weapons. Either way, we need to move. Now. Run again? Luca didn't move. We're always running, Morgan. When do we fight? When fighting doesn't mean dying stupidly. Morgan thrust a blade into his hands. We're 3 wolves against a patrol. The odds are... I don't care about odds. Luca's eyes began to glow, his alpha power rising. I'm tired of hiding. Tired of living like prey. Then you'll die like prey. Morgan stepped close, grabbing his face with both hands, forcing him to look at her. Listen to me. Your father was the strongest alpha I ever knew, and Draven still killed him. Strength isn't enough. We need to be smart. We need to survive. The howls were getting closer. She's right, Alaric said, though he sounded reluctant. We can't fight a full patrol. Not here, not now. For a long moment, Luca stared into Morgan's silver eyes. Something passed between them, something that made her breath catch. Then he nodded, the glow in his eyes fading. Fine. We run. Again. They moved quickly, each grabbing their emergency packs, always prepared, always ready to flee. Morgan took one last look at the cabin that had been their home for 15 years, then led them into the deep forest. They ran for hours, using game trails and stream beds to mask their scent. Morgan navigated by instinct and long memory, leading them deeper into the haunted woods, the places where even rogues feared to go. By the time they stopped, the sun was high overhead and they'd covered at least 30 miles. They collapsed in a small clearing, breathing hard. "Did we lose them?" Alaric asked. Morgan extended her senses, listening, smelling, feeling. "For now. But they'll keep searching. Someone wanted to find us, or someone just wanted to map the territory," Luca said. "We might be paranoid." "Paranoid keeps us alive." Morgan pulled out the dried meat from her pack, distributing it. "We'll rest here for an hour, then keep moving. There's an old fortress about 20 miles north. We can shelter there until—" She stopped. In the trees above them, a raven watched with beady black eyes. It cocked its head, studying them with too much intelligence. Morgan's blood went cold. "Move, now." "What?" "Move!" The raven opened its beak and screamed, not a bird's call, but a wolf's howl distorted through an avian throat. A spell. Someone was using blood magic to track them. They ran again, but the damage was done. Behind them, answering howls erupted. The patrol had found them. "Split up!" Morgan shouted. "Luca, take Alaric east. I'll lead them west." "No!" Luca grabbed her arm. "We stay together. I'm Omega. They won't care about me. They want you. They want the heirs. So let me draw them off." "Morgan, trust me." She yanked free, meeting his eyes. "Please, trust me." For one heartbeat, Luca looked like he might refuse. Then he nodded, grabbed Alaric, and vanished into the underbrush heading east. Morgan turned west and ran, deliberately making noise, leaving obvious tracks. She let herself be seen, let herself be heard. The patrol fell for it. They came crashing through the undergrowth. 6 wolves, large and battle-scarred, pack hunters who knew their business. Morgan ran flat out, her heart hammering, her wolf howling for her to fight. But she couldn't fight 6, even with her hidden strength, even with her curse. The curse. Morgan had spent 15 years suppressing it, hiding it, pretending it didn't exist. The Moonblood power that had gotten her exiled, the magic that marked her as other. She'd sworn never to use it, never to let it control her. But watching the wolves gain on her, she realized she might not have a choice. She burst into a clearing and spun to face them. They emerged from the trees, 6 massive wolves, their eyes gleaming with predatory intelligence. The largest shifted to human form, a scarred male with calculating eyes. Well, well. A lone Omega in the haunted woods. And not just any Omega. Those silver eyes. "You're the Moonblood, aren't you?" "The cursed one from Silverfang." Morgan said nothing, staff held ready. "Where are the others?" "We heard 3 of you." "You heard wrong." The male smiled, showing too many teeth. "We'll find them anyway. But first," he nodded to his pack, "take her alive. Draven will want to question her before he kills her." So it was Draven's patrol. Morgan's heart sank, even as her blood sang with fury. The wolves circled, preparing to attack. Morgan took a deep breath and stopped fighting her curse. Her eyes began to glow, not the dull reflection of an Omega, but brilliant silver, bright as moonlight. Power coursed through her veins, ancient and terrible, the legacy of the first Alpha Queen. "Last chance," she said, and her voice echoed with something not quite mortal. "Run." They didn't run. They should have. Morgan moved like lightning, like vengeance, like the moon itself given teeth and fury. Her staff became an extension of her will, cracking bones and crushing skulls. But more than that, her presence became overwhelming, her omega nature inverting, transforming into something that made even alpha wolves whimper and submit. She didn't kill them. She could have. The curse wanted to. But Morgan held on to enough control to leave them alive. Broken, terrified, but alive. When it was over, she stood alone in the clearing, surrounded by groaning wolves, her eyes still blazing silver. And from the tree line she heard someone whisper, "By the moon." Luca and Alaric emerged from hiding, staring at her with expressions of awe and fear. "You—" Alaric couldn't finish. "You're not just Omega," Luca breathed. "What are you?" Morgan's eyes faded back to their normal silver. Suddenly she felt exhausted, the curse taking its toll. "I'm someone who's kept too many secrets for too long." She looked at them both. "And I think it's time you knew the truth." Chapter 2. The Alpha Awakens. The fortress rose from the forest like a broken tooth. Ancient stone walls half collapsed, towers crumbling, ivy claiming what time and weather had weakened. It had been abandoned for at least a century, Morgan guessed, left to rot after whatever pack built it had fallen or moved on. But its bones were strong, and more importantly, it was remote, safe. They spent the first day securing the structure, finding chambers that still had intact roofs, hauling water from the nearby stream, hunting for food. They worked in relative silence, the unspoken questions hanging heavy between them. It wasn't until nightfall, when they'd settled in what had once been a great hall, that Luca finally broke. "Tell us," he said, feeding another branch to their fire. "Everything." Morgan sat against the wall, her staff across her knees, and wondered where to begin. With her parents? With the curse? With the truth about the night of blood? She decided to start at the beginning. "My mother," Morgan said quietly, "was not a wolf." Not entirely. She was descended from the first Moon Queen, the Alpha who made the pact with the Moon Goddess that gave us our power to shift, to hunt, to rule the night. Alaric leaned forward, fascinated. The Moon Queen is a myth, a legend. Most legends have roots in truth. Morgan stared into the fire. The Moon Queen was real, and she was powerful. But power always has a price. Her descendants carried a curse. They would be born with eyes like moonlight and magic in their blood, but they would never be fully wolf, never fully human, always other. "Your eyes," Luca said softly. Morgan nodded. "My mother met my father when he was a young wolf, newly made beta of Silverfang. They fell in love. It was forbidden, but they didn't care. For a few years they were happy." "What happened?" Alaric asked. "I happened." Morgan's smile was bitter. "I was born with these eyes." "Silver. Wrong. The pack elders demanded I be killed as cursed. Your grandfather, Theron's father, refused. He was old-fashioned, believed in mercy. But he exiled my parents instead, drove them from the pack." She remembered that day. She'd been 6, old enough to understand they were leaving, not old enough to understand why. "My father tried to make a life for us in the wilderness. But lone wolves don't survive well. We were attacked by rogues when I was 12. My father died defending us. My mother." Morgan's voice roughened. "She used her power. All of it. To save me. And it consumed her. By the time I was 13, I was alone." "But you came back to Silverfang," Luca said. "Why?" "Because I had nowhere else to go. And because your mother found me." Morgan's expression softened, remembering. Astrid was young then, newly mated to Theron. She was out riding when she found me half-starved at the border. She could have turned me away. Should have. But she didn't. She brought me to the castle, gave me work in the kitchens, pretended I was just another orphaned Omega. She protected you, Alaric said. She saved me. Again and again. When other wolves whispered about my eyes, she silenced them. When the elders demanded I be sent away, she convinced Theron to let me stay. Morgan met their gazes. So when I found you both hiding in her chambers, when I saw her dead on the floor, I didn't think. I just knew I couldn't let her sons die. I couldn't let her sacrifice be for nothing. They sat in silence, processing. The fire crackled, sending shadows dancing across the walls. The power we saw today, Luca said finally. The Moonblood. It's not just strength, is it? It's something more. It's magic. Old magic. The kind that was common before we became what we are now, before we pretended to be civilized, to have laws and pacts and structure. Morgan flexed her fingers, remembering the feel of power coursing through them. When I use it, I can make other wolves submit. I can fight like 10 warriors. I can sense things I shouldn't sense, know things I shouldn't know. But there's always a but, Luca said grimly. But it's consuming me. Just like it consumed my mother. Every time I use it, I lose a little more of myself. A little more of my humanity. Morgan's voice dropped. Eventually, there'll be nothing left but the curse. Nothing left but the monster. You're not a monster, Alaric said fiercely. You saved us. Raised us. Gave up everything for us. That's not what monsters do. Monsters don't always look like monsters, Alaric. Sometimes they look like people who made too many deals with power they didn't understand. Luca stood abruptly, pacing. His restless energy filled the hall. So, let me understand this. You're the descendant of the Moon Queen. You have magic that makes you incredibly powerful but is slowly killing you. You've spent 15 years hiding from Draven while raising us in secret. And now? He turned to face her. What now, Morgan? What's the endgame? Survival, she said simply. That's not enough. Luca's voice rose, his alpha nature pushing through. We can't just hide forever. Draven took our kingdom. He murdered our parents. He's ruled Silverfang for 15 years, and every day we hide is another day he wins. And every day you're alive is another day you can eventually challenge him, Morgan countered. You're not ready, Luca. Neither of you are. When will we be ready? Luca demanded. When I'm 30. 40. When you've used up all your power and died protecting us. When Draven is so entrenched that removing him is impossible. When you can beat me in a fight, Morgan said calmly. Luca stopped, staring at her. What? You want to take back your kingdom? Fine. Prove you're strong enough. Fight me. Win, and I'll follow you into battle against Draven himself. It was a gamble. Morgan knew she was stronger. The Moonblood made her faster, more powerful, more dangerous than any normal wolf, even an alpha. But Luca needed to understand the gap between wanting vengeance and being ready for it. You're serious? Luca said slowly. Completely. Tomorrow, at dawn. No holding back. Morgan stood, meeting his eyes. If you win, we march on Silverfang. If I win, you keep training until you're actually ready. Luca's jaw set. Done. Alaric looked between them nervously. This is insane. You'll both get hurt. It's necessary, Morgan said. Luca needs to know his limits, and I need to know if he's grown beyond them. That night, Morgan barely slept. She lay in her small chamber, listening to the wind howl through the broken fortress, and wondered if she'd made a mistake, if Luca had grown stronger than she realized. If tomorrow would be the day everything changed, part of her hoped he'd win, hoped he was ready, because Morgan was tired. Tired of running, tired of hiding, tired of watching the curse slowly claim her. But another part, the part that had kept them alive for 15 years, prayed she'd win. Because Luca might be strong, but Draven was stronger. And she couldn't bear the thought of losing Theron's son to the same wolf who'd killed his father. Dawn came cold and grey. They gathered in the fortress courtyard, an open space of cracked stone and stubborn weeds. Alaric stood to the side, looking worried. Morgan and Luca faced each other. No weapons, no armor, just wolf against wolf. "Last chance to back out," Morgan said. Luca's eyes began to glow amber. "Not a chance." They circled each other, and Morgan could feel it. The alpha power radiating from him, stronger than it had been even a month ago. He was coming into his full strength. In another year, maybe 2, he'd be formidable. But not today. Luca struck first, fast and brutal, his combat training evident. Morgan blocked, countered, and suddenly they were moving at speeds that would have been blur to human eyes. Luca fought with raw power and tactical precision. Morgan fought with experience and the subtle enhancement of her curse. They crashed through the courtyard, neither giving ground. Luca was stronger than she'd expected. Good. Alaric cheered his brother on, his loyalty absolute. Then Luca made a mistake. He overextended on a strike, leaving his left side exposed for a fraction of a second. Morgan could have ended it there, could have used her Moonblood to simply overwhelm him. But she hesitated, and in that hesitation, Luca recovered and landed a solid hit to her ribs. The pain was sharp, real. Morgan stumbled back, surprised. Luca pressed his advantage, and suddenly Morgan was on the defensive, blocking more than attacking, her ribs screaming with every movement. When had he gotten this good? Luca swept her legs, and Morgan went down hard. Before she could recover, he was on her, pinning her shoulders to the stone, his eyes blazing with triumph and something else, something that made her breath catch. "Do you yield?" he asked, breathing hard. Morgan stared up at him, at his face, so like his father's, but with Astrid's fierce determination, at the way his body pressed against hers, all heat and strength and barely leashed power. She could have broken the pin, could have used her curse to throw him across the courtyard. Instead, she said quietly, "I yield." Luca's eyes widened. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then Alaric was there, whooping and pulling his brother off Morgan. "You did it! You actually beat her!" Luca helped Morgan to her feet, his hand lingering on hers. "You let me win. I did no such thing." "Morgan, you won fair." She met his eyes. "You're stronger than I thought. Faster. Better." She took a breath, feeling something shift between them, around them. "You're ready. Or ready enough." "So we're really doing this?" Alaric asked, excitement and fear warring in his voice. "We're going after Draven?" "Not directly. Not yet. We're not stupid." Morgan moved to the courtyard edge, gesturing for them to follow. "But yes, it's time to stop hiding and start fighting back." Over the next hours, they made plans. Not to assault Silverfang directly, that would be suicide, but to start undermining Draven's rule, to contact wolves loyal to Theron's memory, to build a resistance. But through it all, Morgan couldn't shake the feeling of Luca's body against hers, the heat in his eyes when he'd pinned her, the way her traitorous heart had raced. She was 38, he was 21. She'd raised him. She had no right to feel what she was feeling. But the moon didn't care about rights, and neither, apparently, did her heart. That night, as they settled into their separate chambers, Luca appeared in her doorway. "Can't sleep?" Morgan asked, not looking up from where she sat, sharpening her knives. "I keep thinking about today, about the fight. You did well. You should be proud. You let me win. I didn't. Morgan." He stepped into the room, and suddenly the space felt very small. "I felt it. At the end, you could have kept fighting, but you chose not to." Morgan set down her blade carefully. "Maybe I wanted to see if you'd take the opportunity. A real fight, against a real enemy. They won't tell you when they yield. They'll use every second of your mercy against you. That's not why you yielded." Luca moved closer. "You yielded because you wanted me to win. Because you're tired of fighting alone. Because you needed the confidence." Morgan cut in. "Because we're about to start a war, and you need to believe you're strong enough to win it." Luca studied her for a long moment. "Is that really all it is?" Morgan forced herself to meet his gaze, to keep her expression neutral. "What else would it be?" He took another step closer. Too close. She could smell him, pine and leather and something uniquely him. Could feel the heat radiating from his body. "I'm not a child anymore, Morgan." "I know that." "Do you?" "Because sometimes you still look at me like I'm 6 years old and hiding behind my mother's skirts." "That's not—" Morgan stopped, frustrated. "Luca, what do you want from me?" "I want you to see me." His voice dropped, rough and earnest. "Not as the boy you saved. Not as your responsibility. Just me." For a heartbeat, Morgan let herself look, really look, at the man he'd become. Strong, fierce, beautiful in the way young predators were beautiful. His amber eyes held hers with an intensity that made her chest tight. Then she looked away. "I see you, Luca. I always have. But that doesn't change what we are to each other. What I am to you. And what are you to me? Your guardian. Your protector. The woman who raised you when you had no one else. You're more than that." He reached out, his fingers brushing her jaw, turning her face back to his. "You know you are." Morgan should have pulled away. Should have put distance between them. Should have reminded him of all the reasons this was impossible, wrong, dangerous. Instead, she let him touch her. Let herself feel the warmth of his hand against her skin. "Luca," she whispered. Don't what? Don't tell you that I dream about you, that I have for years. Don't admit that every time you're in danger I lose my mind with fear. Don't—" "Stop." Morgan stood abruptly, breaking the contact. "You don't know what you're saying. You're young. You're confused. You think you feel something because I'm the only constant you've had. But it's not real. It's not— It is real." Luca's voice was steady, certain. "I know the difference between gratitude and—" He trailed off, as if the word was too much to say. Morgan's heart hammered. "You'll find your mate someday. A proper mate. Someone young and strong and— I don't want someone else. I want you." The words hung between them, impossible and undeniable. Morgan closed her eyes. "This can't happen. You're Theron's son. I promised to protect you, not this. You can't protect me from my own heart." "I can try." She opened her eyes, forcing steel into her voice. "Go to bed, Luca. We have work to do tomorrow, and we both need rest." For a moment, she thought he might argue. Then he nodded slowly, backing toward the door. "This isn't over," he said quietly. "Yes, it is. It has to be." After he left, Morgan sat alone in the darkness, her head in her hands. She'd faced rogues, pack hunters, and the slow death of her curse. But she'd never felt as terrified as she did right now, because Luca was right. It wasn't gratitude she felt when she looked at him. It hadn't been for a long time, and that made her more dangerous than any curse ever could. Chapter 3. The Mark of the Moonblood. 3 days after their conversation, the rogues came. Not scouts this time. A full pack, organized and vicious, drawn by rumors of wolves hiding in the old fortress. 20 strong, maybe more, led by a scarred female who'd clearly been fighting her whole life. Morgan and the brothers were outnumbered 6-1. They'd spent the morning fortifying their position, using the fortress's crumbling walls to their advantage. Alaric had a natural talent for strategy, positioning them where bottlenecks would limit the rogues' numbers advantage. Luca was pure aggression, eager to prove himself in real combat. Morgan just wanted them to survive. The rogues came at dusk, howling their presence like a promise of death. They swarmed the fortress walls, scrambling over stone, fearless in their hunger and rage. "Hold position!" Morgan shouted, her staff already slick with blood. "Don't let them separate us." The battle was chaos. Morgan moved like water, flowing between attacks, her moonblood suppressed, but her experience and speed making her deadly nonetheless. Alaric fought with controlled precision, protecting his brother's back. And Luca fought like his father's son, powerful, relentless, his alpha presence making even the rogues hesitate. But there were too many. A massive rogue broke through their line, tackling Alaric, jaws snapping for his throat. Morgan saw it happening, saw the trajectory, knew she wouldn't reach him in time. Luca was there first, slamming into the rogue with enough force to crack bones. They rolled, savage and brutal, and for a moment Morgan's heart stopped. Then Luca emerged, the rogue's blood painting his chest, his eyes blazing amber. "Behind you!" Alaric screamed. Morgan spun. 3 rogues had flanked her, coordinating their attack. She braced herself, but they were fast, trained. The first one reached her, then the second, then... Something inside Morgan snapped. Later, she wouldn't remember making the choice. One moment she was fighting to keep her moonblood contained. The next, she'd let it free. Power exploded from her like a shockwave. Her eyes ignited with silver fire. Her presence, that omega nature that should have made her submit, inverted, became overwhelming, became the pressure of the moon itself, pressing down on every wolf in the courtyard. The rogues froze. Some whimpered, some tried to run. Morgan didn't let them. She moved through them like moonlight through darkness, inevitable, inescapable. Her staff became an extension of divine wrath. But more than that, her voice became a weapon. When she spoke, the very air vibrated with command. Submit. And they did. All of them. Even the scarred female leader dropped to her belly, whining, unable to resist the force of Morgan's will. It was over in minutes. Morgan stood in the center of the courtyard, surrounded by prostrate wolves, her eyes blazing, her breath coming in ragged gasps. The power sang through her veins, seductive and terrible, whispering that she could do anything, be anything, rule everything. "Morgan!" Luca's voice cut through the haze. She turned to him, and for a moment didn't recognize him, just saw another wolf, another threat. Then his hand touched her arm, warm and real, and she came back to herself. The silver fire in her eyes dimmed. The pressure lifted. The rogues scrambled to their feet and fled, running as if death itself chased them. Morgan swayed, suddenly exhausted. Luca caught her before she fell. "I've got you," he murmured, lowering her gently to the ground. "Is Alaric—" Morgan tried to focus, her vision swimming. "I'm fine." Alaric appeared at her other side, scratched and bloody, but alive. You saved us. That power. Morgan, what was that? She didn't answer. Couldn't. The curse had taken too much this time. She could feel it eating away at her, consuming the pieces of herself she'd tried so hard to hold on to. We need to get her inside, Luca said, his voice tight with worry. Help me. They carried her to her chamber, laid her on the rough bed. Morgan drifted in and out of consciousness, hearing their worried voices like echoes from far away. When she finally surfaced fully, night had fallen. A candle burned beside her bed, and Luca sat in the chair nearby, watching her with haunted eyes. How long? Morgan's voice came out rough. 6 hours. We thought? He swallowed hard. We thought you weren't going to wake up. Morgan pushed herself to sitting, ignoring the way her body protested. I'm harder to kill than that. Are you, though? Luca leaned forward. Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like that power is killing you slowly. Every time you use it, you come back a little less. He wasn't wrong. Morgan could feel it. The hollow places inside her where humanity used to be. The cold spaces where warmth had lived. It's the price, she said quietly. Power always has a price. Then stop using it. And let you die? Let Alaric die? We can protect ourselves. Luca's voice rose. You don't have to sacrifice yourself for us anymore. We're strong enough now. You saw. We held our own out there. Until you didn't. Until you needed me. Morgan met his eyes. This is what I do, Luca. This is who I am, your protector, even if it costs me everything. I don't want it to cost you everything. His voice dropped, became almost pleading. I don't want to lose you. You're not going to lose me. You're lying. I can hear it in your voice. You know the curse is winning. You know that eventually there'll be nothing left. Morgan looked away. Then we'd better move quickly. Take back your kingdom before I'm gone. Damn the kingdom. Luca stood abruptly. I don't care about the throne. I care about you. Why can't you see that? Because it's not real, Morgan said wearily. You think you care because I'm all you've known. But I'm not your mate, Luca. I'm not your future. I'm just the broken thing that kept you alive. Stop talking about yourself like that. Luca moved to the bed, kneeling beside it so they were eye level. You are the strongest, bravest, most incredible wolf I've ever known. And yes, you saved me. Yes, you raised me. But that's not why I... He stopped, jaw clenched. That's not why I feel what I feel. Luca. No, you listen. He took her hand, and Morgan didn't have the strength to pull away. I know you think this is wrong. I know you think I'm too young, or confused, or caught up in some twisted sense of gratitude. But I'm none of those things. I see you, Morgan. All of you. The strength and the scars, the power and the pain. And He took a shaky breath. I love you. I've loved you for years. And watching that curse eat away at you is destroying me. Morgan stared at him, her heart cracking. You can't love me. Too late. I'm dying, Luca. Slowly but surely. Every time I use the Moonblood, I lose more of myself. Eventually, there won't be anything left to love. Then I'll love what remains. I'll love the memory. I'll love the ghost. His grip tightened on her hand. But I refuse to pretend I don't feel this. I refuse to waste whatever time we have left. Tears burned Morgan's eyes, the first she'd shed in years. You deserve better than a broken Omega with a death curse. I deserve to choose for myself, and I choose you. Morgan wanted to argue, wanted to push him away, to do the right thing, the responsible thing. But she was so tired, tired of fighting, tired of denying, tired of being alone. "This is a mistake," she whispered. "Probably." Luca's smile was sad, beautiful. "But it's my mistake to make." He leaned in slowly, giving her time to stop him, to pull away. Morgan knew she should, knew this was crossing a line that couldn't be uncrossed. But when his lips met hers, gentle and reverent, she let herself have this one selfish thing. This one moment of warmth before the cold claimed her completely. The kiss was soft, hesitant, nothing like the passion of young wolves usually demanded. It was a question, a promise, a vow made in silence. When they parted, Luca rested his forehead against hers. "We'll find a way to save you," he said fiercely. "There has to be a cure for the curse. Some way to stop it." "Luca, no, I just found you. I'm not losing you, not to Draven, not to rogues, and not to some ancient curse." His eyes blazed with determination. "We'll find a way. Together." Morgan wanted to believe him, wanted to think that love could conquer magic, that determination could defeat destiny. But she'd lived too long, seen too much. The Moonblood had no cure. Her mother had searched for years before the curse consumed her. Still, looking into Luca's eyes, seeing his absolute conviction, Morgan let herself pretend. Just for tonight. Just for this moment. "Together," she echoed. They stayed like that, forehead to forehead, hands clasped, until the candle burned low and exhaustion claimed them both. Neither noticed the shadow in the doorway. Alaric, who'd witnessed everything, who'd heard his brother's confession and seen Morgan's surrender, who wore an expression of complicated emotions that he quickly hid as he retreated to his own chamber. Because Alaric had a secret too, one he'd kept buried for years. He loved Morgan too, and unlike his brother, he didn't know if he'd ever have the courage to tell her. Chapter 4. Shadows of Desire. The fortress became their war room over the following weeks. Maps stolen from Draven's patrols covered the walls, supply lists, contact names of wolves who might still be loyal to Theron's memory, plans within contingencies. But beneath the strategy and preparation, tension simmered. Morgan tried to maintain distance from Luca, tried to pretend that kiss hadn't happened, that his confession hadn't changed everything. But it was impossible. Every time their eyes met across the table, heat sparked. Every accidental touch lingered, and Alaric watched it all with eyes that said too much and nothing at all. 3 pack patrols in this sector alone, Alaric said, pointing to the eastern territories on their map. Draven's definitely increasing security. He might have heard rumors about us. Or he's preparing for something else, Morgan said, studying the patterns. These positions aren't defensive. They're staging points for an assault. On who? Luca leaned over the table, his shoulder brushing Morgan's. Neither moved away. The Riverside Pack, maybe. They've never acknowledged Draven's rule. Theron had a treaty with them, one that died when he did. Morgan traced the patrol routes. If Draven attacks them, it'll be a massacre. They're peaceful wolves, farmers and traders. They won't stand a chance. Then we warn them, Alaric said immediately, and reveal ourselves in the process? Morgan shook her head. The moment we make contact with another pack, Draven will know we're alive. He'll hunt us with everything he has. So we let innocent wolves die? Alaric's voice rose. That's not what my father would have done. Morgan flinched. He was right, of course. Theron had believed in protecting all wolves, not just his own pack. We'll send an anonymous warning, Luca decided. No contact. Just information slipped to their scouts. let them prepare without knowing who helped them. It was a compromise, not perfect, but workable. They spent hours working out the details, arguing over approaches, planning every contingency. By the time night fell, they were all exhausted. Alaric retired early, claiming he wanted to review their supply situation. That left Morgan and Luca alone in the great hall, maps spread around them, a single torch guttering in its bracket. "You're avoiding me," Luca said into the silence. Morgan didn't look up from the supply list she was pretending to read. "I'm sitting right here. Physically, not—" He gestured vaguely. "Not in any way that matters. We have work to do. A kingdom to reclaim. This isn't the time for— For what? For us." Luca moved around the table, refusing to let her hide behind parchment and duty. "Morgan, look at me." She did, reluctantly. The torchlight painted his face in amber and shadow, making him look older, harder. Less like the boy she'd raised, and more like the man he'd become. "What do you want me to say?" Morgan asked tiredly. "That I think about that kiss? That I lie awake at night wondering what would happen if I let myself want this? I do. All of it. But wanting something doesn't make it right. Why not? We're both adults, both willing, both— Because I'm supposed to protect you, not—" She struggled for words. "Not this. Your parents trusted me with you. Your mother died believing I'd keep you safe. And safe doesn't mean—" "My mother would want me to be happy," Luca said quietly. "She would want both of us to be happy." "Do you really think she'd condemn this? Condemn us?" Morgan thought of Astrid. Kind, fierce Astrid, who'd defied pack law to help a cursed Omega child, who'd believed in love despite politics and propriety. "I don't know," she admitted. "Maybe not. But she's not here to ask, is she? And I have to live with my choices, have to look at myself and know I didn't betray her trust." "You could never betray her. You've given us everything. Your life, your freedom, your—" Luca stopped, something flickering across his face. "Show me." "Show you what?" "The curse. What it's doing to you. You hide it, but I know it's getting worse. Show me." Morgan hesitated, then slowly she rolled up her sleeve. Her forearm was marked with silver lines, intricate, beautiful, terrible. They looked almost like veins, but they glowed faintly in the dim light, pulsing with their own rhythm. The moonblood, spreading through her body, claiming her inch by inch. Luca stared, his jaw tight. He reached out, fingers hovering over the marks, but not quite touching. "Does it hurt?" "Not physically, but—" Morgan struggled to explain. "It feels cold, like ice spreading through my veins. And every time I use the power, the cold spreads further. Eventually, it'll reach my heart. And then— Then what? Then I'll be like my mother. More curse than wolf. More monster than woman." She pulled her sleeve down. "So you see? This can't work. Whatever you think you feel, it has an expiration date. Then let's make the most of the time we have." "Luca, I mean it." He moved closer, and Morgan's breath caught. "If you're going to spend your last days fighting Draven, planning strategy, sacrificing yourself for us, fine. But give yourself this too. Give us this. It's not that simple." "It is. You're just making it complicated because you're scared." Morgan's eyes flashed. "I'm not scared. You are. You're terrified. Not of dying. Not of the curse. You're scared of letting yourself have something good. Of believing you deserve it." The words hit like a physical blow. Morgan wanted to deny them, but they rang with uncomfortable truth. "And what if I am?" she asked. her voice barely above a whisper. What if I don't deserve it? What if I'm just a cursed Omega who got lucky and doesn't know when to quit? Then you're the bravest cursed Omega who ever lived. Luca cupped her face in his hands, gentle despite the calluses. And you deserve everything good this world has to offer, including this, including me, if you want it. I shouldn't want it. But do you? Morgan closed her eyes. She could lie, should lie, could push him away and maintain the wall between guardian and ward, protector and protected. Instead, she told the truth. Yes. The word hung between them for one heartbeat, two. Then Luca kissed her. Not the gentle, hesitant kiss from before. This was fire and need, and years of suppressed longing finally breaking free. Morgan responded without thinking, her hands fisting in his shirt, pulling him closer. They stumbled back against the table, maps scattering. Luca lifted her easily, setting her on the edge, stepping between her legs. Morgan's mind screamed that this was wrong, but her body didn't care. Her heart didn't care. She'd been alone for so long, strong for so long. And Luca's hands on her waist, his lips on her neck, his breath against her skin. It felt like coming home after a lifetime of wandering. Morgan, he breathed against her mouth. Tell me to stop if you want me to stop. She should. She knew she should. Don't stop, she whispered instead. Luca groaned, the sound vibrating through both of them. His hands slid up her sides, reverent and hungry all at once. Morgan arched into the touch, 15 years of loneliness and denial burning away in the heat between them. They didn't hear the footsteps on the stairs, didn't sense the presence in the doorway. So it's true. They broke apart. Alaric stood at the hall entrance, his expression carefully blank, but his eyes betraying him, hurt, anger, and something deeper. Alaric! Morgan scrambled off the table, adjusting her clothes. This isn't what? Isn't what it looks like. Alaric's laugh was bitter. Because it looks like my brother and the woman who raised us are... He trailed off, shaking his head. I came to tell you the scout returned with news. But clearly you were occupied. Brother? Luca stepped forward. Don't. Alaric held up a hand. Just don't. I'll be in my chamber. Come find me when you're done with whatever this is. He turned and left, his footsteps echoing in the stone corridor. Morgan slumped against the table, shame and frustration warring in her chest. This is exactly what I was afraid of. He'll understand, Luca said, but he didn't sound certain. Will he? Because from where I'm standing, we just hurt someone we both love. Morgan looked at him. I told you this was a mistake. It's not a mistake. He's just surprised. He'll come around. But Morgan wasn't sure. She'd seen Alaric's face, seen the pain there, and she had a sinking feeling that the damage might be deeper than Luca wanted to admit. Because Alaric was right about one thing. She was the woman who'd raised them both. And now she'd chosen one over the other in the most intimate way possible. How did you recover from that? Later, in her chamber, Morgan sat by the window and watched the moon rise. The curse marks on her arm pulsed with its rhythm, a reminder of everything she was and everything she wasn't. A soft knock made her turn. Come in. Alaric entered, his expression guarded. They stood in awkward silence for a moment. I'm sorry, Morgan said finally. You shouldn't have seen that. But it's happening. You and Luca. Alaric studied her face. How long? Nothing's happened. Not really. That was the first time we... Morgan, don't lie to me. I've watched the way you look at each other for months now, maybe years. I was just too stupid to see it for what it was. Morgan sighed. It's complicated. Is it? Seems simple to me. You love him. He loves you. End of story. That's not... Morgan stopped, hearing the bitterness in his voice. Alaric, what is this really about? He was quiet for a long moment. Then, do you remember when I was 15? When I got sick that winter? Morgan nodded. It had been bad. A fever that had lasted for days, delirious and dangerous. You stayed with me the whole time. Didn't sleep. Barely ate. Just sat beside me and kept me cool and told me stories. Alaric's voice was soft. I woke up one night and saw you there, exhausted, but still watching over me. And I thought she's the most beautiful person I've ever seen. Morgan's heart sank. Alaric. I know it's stupid. I know you don't feel that way about me, but I need you to understand. It's not just that you chose Luca, it's that you never saw me as anything but a child to protect. He finally met her eyes. I'm not a child anymore, Morgan. But to you, I always will be. Won't I? Morgan wanted to deny it, but she couldn't, because he was right. When she looked at Alaric, she saw the gentle boy who'd needed protecting, who'd been too soft for the world they lived in. She'd never seen him the way she'd come to see Luca, as a man, as an equal, as someone who could challenge her and match her and stand beside her rather than behind her. I'm sorry, she said quietly. I never meant to hurt you. I know. That's what makes it worse. Alaric moved toward the door. For what it's worth, I don't hate you. Either of you. I need time. Take all the time you need. After he left, Morgan sat alone with her guilt and her curse, and the growing certainty that loving Luca might cost more than just her life. It might cost them everything. Chapter 5. The Return of the Rogues. The warning they'd sent to Riverside Pack worked too well. The peaceful wolves prepared for battle, organizing defenses, calling in favors from allied packs. Word spread that someone had leaked Draven's plans, and Draven responded with fury. Patrols doubled, scouts combed the territories, and a bounty was placed. 1,000 gold pieces for information leading to the mysterious traitors who dared interfere with the Alpha King's business. Morgan knew they'd poked a hornet's nest, but she hadn't expected the hornets to find them quite so quickly. They came at midday, unusual for wolves, but smart. The fortress was easier to assault in sunlight, when shadows couldn't hide defenders. 40 wolves, Alaric reported from his scouting position. Maybe more? These aren't rogues, Morgan. They're pack soldiers, Draven's elite. Morgan's blood ran cold. The elite were trained killers, the best Silverfang had to offer. Facing them with just 3 wolves was suicide. We run, she decided. Now. We can't win this fight. We'll never stop running if we don't make a stand, Luca argued. This is the best defensive position we've had. If we abandon it, we'll be alive to find another one. Morgan was already gathering their emergency packs. This isn't pride, Luca. This is survival. We are outnumbered 13-1 by professional soldiers. We. Run for once, Luca didn't argue. Even his alpha instincts recognized hopeless odds. They fled through the fortress's back passages, the hidden ways Morgan had found during their weeks of residence. Behind them, they could hear the soldiers breaching the front gates, searching the chambers. They almost made it. The trap was sprung at the forest's edge. Soldiers emerging from concealment on all sides, cutting off every escape route. Morgan realized with cold horror that someone had known about the back passages. Someone had known exactly where they'd run. Well. A familiar voice made Morgan's blood freeze. The Lost Princes. And their mongrel Omega Guardian. Lady Selene stepped into view, beautiful and deadly, her auburn hair catching the sunlight. Draven's mate. Morgan had seen her at court sometimes when she was young, cruel even then, with a smile like broken glass. "I've been hunting you for 15 years," Selene continued, circling them like prey. "Droven said you were dead, that the rogues had killed you that night. But I knew better. I knew someone had helped you escape." Morgan shifted her grip on her staff, calculating angles, looking for weaknesses. There were none. They were perfectly surrounded. "What gave us away?" she asked, buying time. "Your compassion?" Selene laughed. "Warning Riverside? Interfering with Draven's expansion? That was pure Theron, always too soft, always too noble. I knew his whelps would be the same." Her eyes fixed on Morgan. "But you, silver-eyed freak. I remember you from the castle, the cursed Omega that Astrid kept like a pet. You're the one who took them, who's hidden them all these years." "And I'd do it again," Morgan said calmly. "Oh, I'm sure you would. Draven wants them alive, wants to execute them publicly, make an example." Selene's smile widened. "But he said nothing about bringing you back alive. In fact, I think he'd prefer I didn't." The soldiers advanced. Morgan felt her moonblood surge in response, the curse recognizing danger. "Stay behind me," she told the brothers. "No," Luca growled. "We fight together." "We die together, you mean? Then we die together." Before Morgan could argue, Selene signaled the attack. The soldiers were good. Better than rogues, better than patrols. They moved in coordinated waves, never giving Morgan a clear target, always pressing, always attacking from angles designed to separate the three defenders. Morgan fought desperately, using every trick she'd learned in decades of survival. Beside her, Luca and Alaric proved they'd learned their lessons well, fighting back to back, covering each other's weaknesses, displaying the kind of teamwork that could only come from absolute trust. But it wasn't enough. There were too many. For every soldier they dropped, 2 more took their place. A blade scored Morgan's side. She felt ribs crack from a heavy blow. Blood ran into her eyes from a cut on her forehead. They were losing. Luca went down first, overwhelmed by 4 soldiers working in concert. Alaric screamed his brother's name, lunging to protect him, and took a spear through the shoulder for his trouble. Morgan saw them falling, and something inside her broke. Not the moonblood. Something deeper. Enough. The word echoed with power that made reality shudder. Morgan's eyes blazed silver, brighter than ever before. The curse surged through her, not just a trickle, but a flood, consuming everything in its path. She became something else, something more. The pressure of her presence made soldiers collapse, whimpering. Even Selene stumbled back, fear flashing across her face. Morgan moved like the moon given form, beautiful, terrible, inevitable. Her staff shattered, so she fought with her hands, and where she touched, wolves fell. Her voice became a weapon that bypassed flesh and broke spirits. "You want to kill them?" Her words resonated with ancient power. "You'll have to go through me. And I am the daughter of the Moon Queen. I am Moonblood made manifest. I am the nightmare your pack elders whispered about." The soldiers broke. Even training couldn't overcome primal terror. They ran, scattering into the forest, and Morgan let them go. All except Selene. The lady tried to flee, but Morgan was faster. She caught Selene by the throat, lifting her effortlessly, the curse making her far stronger than her Omega frame suggested. "Please," Selene gasped. "Please, I was just following orders." "My mother begged too," Morgan said, her voice cold as winter. "When they exiled us, when they left us to die. Did anyone show her mercy? I wasn't. You chose him, chose power over compassion, chose cruelty over kindness. Morgan's grip tightened. You made your choice. Live with it, or don't. Morgan, stop! Luca's voice cut through the haze. Morgan turned, and he was there, bloodied but alive, horror in his eyes. Don't kill her, he said. Please, don't become what they are. They murdered your parents, Morgan said, her voice still echoing with power. They hunted you for 15 years. They would have killed you today. And you want me to show mercy? Yes. Luca moved closer, despite the waves of power radiating from her. Because that's who we are. That's who you taught us to be. We're not Draven. We're not her. We're better. Morgan stared at him, at the man she'd raised, the man who still believed in goodness despite everything. The curse whispered that he was weak, that mercy was weakness, that power was all that mattered. But Morgan looked into Luca's eyes and saw her father, saw Astrid, saw every kindness she'd ever been shown. She released Celine. The lady collapsed, gasping. Run! Morgan said, her voice fading back to normal, the silver fire dimming. Run back to Draven. Tell him the princes live. Tell him they're coming for him. Tell him. She smiled without humor. Tell him the Moonblood sends her regards. Celine ran, stumbling and terrified. The moment she disappeared into the trees, Morgan collapsed. The curse had taken too much this time. She could feel it spreading, consuming, the cold reaching places it had never touched before. Her vision swam, her heartbeat grew erratic. Morgan! Luca caught her, cradling her against his chest. Stay with me. Please stay with me. I'm fine, she lied, her voice barely audible. Just tired. You're dying. Tears streaked through the blood on his face. The curse is killing you, and I don't know how to stop it. You can't stop it. Morgan touched his face weakly. No one can. This is what I am, Luca, what I've always been. Cursed. Borrowed time. No, I refuse to accept that. He looked at Alaric, who'd staggered over, clutching his wounded shoulder. Help me get her to shelter. There has to be something we can do. Some way to... There's nothing. Morgan's eyes fluttered closed. Just promise me. Promise you'll keep fighting. Promise you'll take back your kingdom. I promise we'll do it together. Luca's voice broke. You hear me? Together. You don't get to give up. Not now. Not when we've come this far. But Morgan was already unconscious, her breath shallow, the silver marks on her skin glowing like brands. The brothers carried her away from the battlefield, leaving behind bodies and blood and the ruins of their sanctuary. They found a cave, hidden and defensible, and there they tended her wounds and waited. Waited to see if the Moonblood would consume her completely, or if Morgan would somehow, impossibly, find a way to survive. Chapter 6. Blood Oaths. Morgan woke 3 days later to the sound of rain. She lay in a small cave, wrapped in blankets that smelled of pine and leather and Luca. Her body felt like one enormous bruise, but she was alive. More surprisingly, she was still herself. You're awake. Alaric appeared at her side, relief flooding his face. Thank the moon. We thought... He stopped, swallowing hard. We thought you weren't coming back. Takes more than a curse to kill me, Morgan said, her voice rough from disuse. She tried to sit up and immediately regretted it. Everything hurt. Easy. Alaric helped her, propping her against the cave wall. You've been unconscious for 3 days. The curse marks spread. We could see them under your skin, like veins of silver. They almost reached your heart. Almost? Morgan looked down at herself. The marks had indeed spread, covering her arms now, creeping up her neck. But they'd stopped, frozen just short of the fatal threshold. Why did they stop? We don't know. Luca's been researching. He found some old texts in the fortress before we fled. He thinks. Alaric hesitated. He thinks your will is fighting it, that as long as you have something to live for, the curse can't fully claim you. Something to live for. Morgan thought of Luca's kiss, his confession, the promise of something she'd never thought she could have. Where is he? She asked. Hunting. We need food, and he needed to. Alaric looked away. He needed to not watch you maybe die. It was destroying him, Morgan. Seeing you like that. Guilt twisted in Morgan's chest. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have used so much power. I knew the risk. You saved our lives. You have nothing to apologize for. Alaric met her eyes. But Morgan, we need to talk. About the curse. About what you told Celine. Morgan had known this conversation was coming. She'd revealed too much in her fury, let too many secrets slip. The Moonblood, she said quietly. You want to know what it really means? I want to know why you never told us. All these years, you let us think you were just a strong Omega, but you're not. You're... He struggled for words. You're something else entirely. I'm the last descendant of the Moon Queen, Morgan said, deciding truth was the only option now. The queen who made the original pact with the moon goddess, who gave wolves the power to shift, to hunt, to claim the night as ours. But the pact had a price. Her bloodline would carry power beyond measure, and a curse that would eventually consume them. She pulled back her sleeve, showing the silver marks that now covered her skin. This is that curse. It grows every time I use the power. When it reaches my heart, I'll transform. Become something not quite wolf, not quite human. A creature of pure instinct and magic. My mother called it moon-touched madness. I'll lose everything I am. My memories, my personality, my soul. I'll become a weapon with no one to wield it. Alaric stared at the marks, horror and fascination warring on his face. How long do you have? I don't know. Before the battle, I would have said months, maybe a year. Now, Morgan touched the marks that had crept toward her heart. Weeks, days. The more I fight, the faster it spreads. Then you can't fight anymore. We'll find another way. There is no other way. Morgan looked at him steadily. This is who I am, Alaric. A weapon forged in blood and moonlight. I've accepted it. You need to accept it too. Luca won't accept it. Luca doesn't have a choice. The rain continued to fall, creating a curtain of sound around the cave. Alaric was quiet for a long moment, processing everything. The power you showed, he said finally. Making those soldiers submit, breaking their will, that's what the Moon Queen could do. Among other things, she could command any wolf, regardless of rank, could sense prey from miles away, could heal from wounds that should have been fatal. Could. Morgan trailed off, remembering stories her mother had told. Could bind souls together with blood and moonlight, creating bonds stronger than mate bonds. Like what? Like the bond she made with her pack, absolute loyalty, unbreakable trust. They would die for her without question, not because they were forced to, but because they loved her that completely. Morgan's voice softened. My mother said it was the most beautiful and terrible thing the Queen ever did. Beautiful because it created perfect unity. Terrible because when she died, half her pack died with her. The bond was that strong. Alaric absorbed this, his tactical mind clearly working. Could you do that? Create that kind of bond? Theoretically. But it would require blood magic, moon rituals, and… Morgan stopped, seeing where his mind was going. No, you don't even know what I was going to suggest. You want me to bond myself to you and Luca, to create an unbreakable pack bond that would make us stronger, faster, more connected. Morgan shook her head. It's too dangerous. The ritual could kill you both, and even if it worked, you'd be tied to me. When the curse finally claims me, it might claim you too. Or it might save you. Alaric leaned forward. Think about it. The curse feeds on isolation, on using power alone. But if you weren't alone, if you had us literally bonded to you, sharing the burden, maybe it couldn't consume you. It was a beautiful theory. Also, probably wrong. I won't risk your lives on a maybe, Morgan said firmly. It's our choice to make. No, it's mine, and I've made it. Before Alaric could argue further, Luca appeared at the cave entrance, soaked from the rain, carrying 2 rabbits. He froze when he saw Morgan sitting up. You're awake. The rabbits dropped, forgotten. In 3 strides, he was at her side, his hands framing her face. You're really awake. I'm really awake, Morgan confirmed, managing a smile despite the pain. Sorry for worrying you. Sorry for… Luca's laugh bordered on hysterical. Morgan, you almost died. You stopped breathing twice. Your heart stopped once. Sorry doesn't cover it. But I didn't die. I'm here. I'm fine. You're not fine. You're… He stopped, seeming to really see her for the first time. His thumb traced the silver marks that had crept up her neck. It's worse. The curse is worse. It'll slow down now that I'm not actively fighting. I just need rest. You need a cure? Luca's voice was fierce, desperate. There has to be something in the old texts. Some ritual or herb or… Luca. Morgan caught his hands, squeezing gently. We talked about this. There's no cure. There's never been a cure. Then we'll make one. We'll find the moon goddess herself and demand she break the curse. We'll… Luca. Morgan's voice was soft, but final. Stop. He stared at her, amber eyes swimming with tears he refused to shed. I can't lose you. You might have to, and we both need to be ready for that. No. He pulled away, standing abruptly. No, I refuse. I refuse to accept that you're just going to give up and die because of some ancient curse. There has to be a way to fight this. I am fighting it. Every day. Every hour. But eventually isn't now. Luca began pacing, his alpha energy making the small cave feel smaller. Alaric mentioned a bonding ritual, something the Moon Queen used to do. Morgan shot Alaric a betrayed look. He had the grace to look sheepish. It's too dangerous, she said. More dangerous than you dying, Luca challenged. More dangerous than losing you to the curse. Because from where I'm standing, we don't have much to lose. You have your lives to lose. The ritual could kill you both, could bind you to a dying woman and drag you down with her. I won't… It's not your choice. Luca's voice rose, echoing off the cave walls. You've spent 15 years making every choice for us, deciding what we needed, what was safe, what was best. But we're not children anymore, Morgan. We get to choose too, and I choose this. I choose you. I choose to fight for you the way you've fought for us. Morgan wanted to argue, wanted to pull rank, to use logic, to do whatever it took to keep them safe from her curse. But looking at Luca's face, seeing the absolute determination there, the love that refused to compromise, she realized he was right. They weren't children. They were men who could make their own choices, even if those choices terrified her. Tell me about the ritual, she said finally. Everything, and then we'll decide. Together. Relief flooded Luca's face. He and Alaric exchanged glances, then settled in to explain what they'd learned. The blood moon ritual, as it was called, required 3 wolves willing to bind themselves together. They would share blood under the full moon, speak vows of loyalty and love, and the moon goddess, if she was pleased, would forge a bond between them. Not a mate bond, which was destined and beyond control. This was choice, will, a pack bond taken to its ultimate extreme. The accounts say the bonded pack becomes one, Alaric explained. They can sense each other's emotions, thoughts, even locations. In battle, they move as one unit, perfectly synchronized. Their strengths combine, their weaknesses are shared and minimized. And the risks? Morgan asked. If one dies, the others feel it. Possibly die with them. If one is corrupted or goes mad, it could spread through the bond. Luca met her eyes. If your curse transforms you, we'd feel it too. Might be transformed ourselves. It was worse than Morgan had thought. And you want to risk that? We want to save you, Alaric said simply. This is the only way we know how. Morgan looked between them, these boys she'd raised, these men who'd become her everything. The thought of binding them to her curse made her sick. But the thought of dying and leaving them alone was worse. The next full moon, she said quietly. We'll do the ritual then. But if anything goes wrong, if either of you show signs of corruption, we break the bond immediately. I won't drag you down with me. Deal, Luca said immediately. They spent the next week preparing. Luca found texts that described the ritual in detail, the words to speak, the cuts to make, the way to present themselves to the moon. Alaric gathered supplies: silver to catch moonlight, herbs to burn, water from a sacred spring. And Morgan tried not to think about all the ways this could go catastrophically wrong. 3 nights before the full moon, as they sat around their small fire, Alaric asked the question Morgan had been dreading. What happens if this works? If we bond successfully, and somehow the curse is slowed or stopped, what then? Then we take back your kingdom, Morgan said, as if it were obvious. And after that? Luca pressed. After Draven is defeated and the throne is restored? What happens to you? To us? Morgan didn't have an answer. She'd spent so long focused on survival and vengeance that she'd never thought about what came next. I don't know, she admitted. I've never let myself think that far ahead. Maybe you should start, Luca said softly. Maybe you should start believing we'll survive this. All of us. That night, unable to sleep, Morgan slipped out of the cave to stand under the night sky. The moon was waxing, growing fuller, preparing for the ritual that might save or damn them all. I hope you're watching, she whispered to the goddess she'd never quite believed in. I hope you remember your first daughter, the queen who made the pact, because I'm about to ask for help, and I've never been very good at asking. The moon, as always, gave no answer, but somewhere in Morgan's heart, something stirred. Hope, maybe, or just the stubborn refusal to surrender that had kept her alive this long. Either way, she'd made her choice. In 3 days, they would perform the ritual. They would bind themselves together with blood and moonlight and desperate love. And whatever came after, madness or miracle, they would face it together. Just as they'd faced everything else for the past 15 years, as pack, as family, as something the old wolves had no name for, but the moon might recognize. Love that refused to break, even when everything else did. Chapter 7. A Kiss Before War. The full moon rose heavy and silver, transforming the forest into a cathedral of light and shadow. Morgan stood in the small clearing they'd chosen, feeling the pull of lunar power like a physical thing. Her moonblood sang in response, the curse marks on her skin beginning to glow faintly. Beside her, Luca and Alaric stood bare-chested, their skin painted with ancient symbols in ash and crushed silver. They'd spent the day fasting and preparing, following the ritual requirements exactly. There was no room for error. One misstep could mean death for all of them. "Are you sure about this?" Morgan asked one final time. "Once we begin, there's no going back." "I've never been more sure of anything," Luca said, his amber eyes reflecting moonlight. "Neither have I," Alaric added, though his voice carried a tremor of fear he couldn't quite hide. Morgan nodded. She'd drawn the ritual circle in salt and silver dust, created the pattern her mother had once described. In the center sat 3 bowls, one for each of them, and a single ceremonial blade. They entered the circle together, forming a triangle, each facing inward. The moment they were all inside, Morgan felt the air change, thicken, as if the moon itself was paying attention. "We begin with blood," Morgan said, her voice taking on the formal cadence her mother had taught her. "Blood given freely, blood shared willingly, blood that binds beyond death and breaking." She took the blade first, drawing it across her palm. The pain was sharp and immediate, and her blood, darker than it should be, touched with silver from the curse, dripped into her bowl. She passed the blade to Luca. He didn't hesitate, cutting deep, his alpha blood bright red in the moonlight. Then Alaric, whose hand shook slightly, but whose cut was clean and sure. "We speak our oaths," Morgan continued, feeling the ritual's power building around them. "First truth, I am Morgan, daughter of Elena, granddaughter of the Moon Queen's line. I carry the curse of Moonblood and the burden of broken oaths. I offer my strength, my life, my soul to this bond. I swear to protect, to guide, to love these wolves until my final breath." The words felt heavy, significant, as if they were being written into reality itself. The moon seemed to pulse, and Morgan felt her curse respond, the silver marks spreading another inch across her chest. Luca spoke next, his voice steady despite the magnitude of what they were doing. "I am Luca, son of Theron and Astrid, heir to Silverfang, Alpha-born and vengeance sworn. I offer my strength, my will, my heart to this bond. I swear to stand beside Morgan, to fight her battles, to carry her burdens, to love her beyond reason or sense." His eyes met Morgan's, and the weight of his words, of that final promise, made her breath catch. Alaric's turn. "I am Alaric, son of Theron and Astrid, brother to Luca, keeper of memory and conscience. I offer my loyalty, my faith, my trust to this bond. I swear to honor Morgan, to support Luca, to bind this pack with wisdom and love." The air crackled with building power. Morgan felt it gathering, pressing down, the moon's attention now fully focused on their small circle. "Blood to blood," Morgan said, and they each poured their bowls into a single vessel at the circle's center. The 3 bloodlines mixed, swirling together, and where they touched, light sparked, silver and red and gold, impossibly bright. "Moon above, witness this bond," Morgan called out, her voice echoing with power she wasn't consciously using. 3 wolves, 3 hearts, 3 souls, binding as one. Grant us your blessing, or deliver your judgment, but acknowledge what we create here tonight. For a long moment, nothing happened. The forest held its breath. The moon hung perfectly still. Then light exploded from the mixed blood, shooting upward in a pillar that seemed to pierce the sky itself. It was blinding, overwhelming, and Morgan felt it slam into her chest like a physical blow. Pain. Incredible pain. The curse reacted violently to the intrusion, silver marks blazing across her skin. She heard herself scream, heard Luca and Alaric cry out as well, all three of them connected now, feeling each other's agony. The bond was forming, burning itself into their very beings. Morgan felt Luca's presence flood into her mind, his thoughts, his emotions, his memories. Felt Alaric's steady strength anchoring them both. And she knew they felt her too, felt the curse, felt the darkness slowly consuming her from the inside. For a terrifying moment, Morgan was certain they'd made a mistake. The curse was spreading through the bond, reaching for Luca and Alaric, trying to consume them too. Then something shifted. The bond didn't just connect them, it reinforced them. Where Morgan was weakening, Luca's alpha strength supported her. Where the curse tried to spread, Alaric's calm determination formed a barrier. And where both brothers wavered under the force of Morgan's power, her experience and control steadied them. They became a closed circuit, each one supporting the others, the bond creating something greater than the sum of its parts. The light began to fade. The pain receded. Morgan found herself on her knees, gasping. Luca and Alaric collapsed beside her. But they were alive, and more than that, they were connected. She could feel them in her mind, in her heart, their presence as natural as breathing. "Are you okay?" Luca's thought, clear as speech in her mind. "I think so," Morgan responded, marveling at how easy it was. "You?" "Better than okay." She felt his emotional state through the bond, exhausted but exhilarated, awed by the connection they'd just forged. "This is incredible." The curse, Alaric's thought cut in, always practical. What happened to it? Morgan looked down at her arms. The silver marks were still there, but they'd stopped spreading. More than that, they'd receded slightly, as if pushed back by the bond's formation. "It's contained," she breathed aloud. "The bond is holding it back." "So it worked," Luca said, slowly pushing himself up. "We actually did it." They stared at each other, and Morgan could feel everything they felt. Luca's relief and joy, Alaric's cautious hope, and beneath it all, the solid foundation of love that bound them together. "How do we look?" Alaric asked, examining his chest. All three of them bore new marks. Not the silver curse marks, but something else. Symbols had appeared over their hearts, silvery and glowing faintly. They matched, three pieces of a larger design, each incomplete alone, but together, forming a perfect whole. "The bond mark," Morgan said, recognizing it from her mother's stories. "Physical proof of our connection?" Luca traced his mark with wondering fingers. "I can feel you both. Your emotions, your thoughts, if you project them strongly enough." "It's overwhelming," Alaric suggested. "Perfect," Luca corrected, looking at Morgan with such open love that it made her heart ache. "It's perfect." They spent hours learning the bond's limits, testing what they could feel and what remained private. Morgan discovered she could sense their locations instinctively, could tell when they were in danger or distressed. The brothers found they could draw on her Moonblood power in small amounts, enhancing their own strength without triggering the curse. It was, Morgan had to admit, extraordinary and terrifying, because she could feel them now, feel how much Luca loved her, the depth of it, the absoluteness. Feel Alaric's more complicated emotions, his own love for her, his determination to support his brother, his careful management of his own heart. When dawn finally broke, painting the sky in shades of gold and rose, they left the circle exhausted but changed, bound together in a way that transcended normal pack ties. They returned to the cave and slept in a pile, too tired to maintain separate spaces, the bond making proximity comfortable rather than awkward. Morgan woke once to find herself nestled between the brothers, Luca's arm across her waist, Alaric's back pressed against hers. Through the bond, she could feel their dreams, Luca's full of fire and battle, Alaric's of home and safety. When they woke properly, midday sun streaming into the cave, the world had shifted. They moved around each other with unconscious synchronization, anticipating needs, sharing tasks without discussion. The bond made them efficient, united, stronger, but it also made things complicated. That evening, as Alaric went to scout their surroundings, Luca found Morgan sitting by the stream, watching moonlight dance on water. "I can feel what you're thinking," he said, settling beside her, through the bond. "You're worried about what happens next, aren't you? We're bound now, connected in ways that will affect everything, how we fight, how we live." She trailed off. "How we love," Luca supplied. Morgan didn't answer. "The bond doesn't change what I feel for you," Luca continued quietly. "I loved you before. I love you now. The bond just makes it impossible to hide it." "I know." Morgan could feel his love through their connection, constant and warm. "I can feel it. All of it." "And?" His hand found hers, fingers intertwining. "What do you feel?" Morgan took a breath. The bond made lying impossible, made hiding pointless. He would know whatever she felt anyway. "I feel terrified," she admitted, "because loving you means losing you someday. Either I die from the curse or you die in battle, or Draven kills us all. There's no future where this ends well. Then we make the most of now." Luca turned her face to his. "Morgan, I've wasted so much time being afraid to tell you how I felt. I'm not wasting any more. I love you, and I want you, however long we have, whatever comes next. I want every moment with you. Even if those moments are numbered, even if the curse, even then." His thumb brushed across her cheek. "I'd rather have one day loving you truly than a lifetime of safety without you." Morgan closed her eyes, feeling tears threaten. "You're so young. You don't understand. I'm young, not stupid. I understand perfectly. Love is a choice, and I choose you. Every day, every moment." Luca leaned closer, his forehead touching hers. "The question is, do you choose me?" Through the bond, Morgan could feel his vulnerability, his fear that she'd still push him away. Could feel Alaric in the distance, carefully giving them privacy but aware of the conversation's importance. She could make the noble choice. Could claim the age difference was too great, that she was still his guardian in some fundamental way, that this was wrong despite the bond. But Morgan had spent her whole life making noble choices, sacrificing herself, putting others first. Maybe, just this once, she could be selfish, could take something for herself before the curse claimed her completely. "I choose you," she whispered. "Moon, help me. I choose you." Luca's joy flooded through the bond, so intense it took her breath away. Then his lips met hers, and this time there was no hesitation, no holding back. This kiss was everything the first one hadn't been. Passionate, desperate, claiming. Morgan responded in kind, her fingers tangling in his hair, pulling him closer. 15 years of denial, of suppressing her feelings, of pretending she didn't want this. All of it burned away in the heat between them. They broke apart only when breathing became necessary, both gasping, both wanting more. "Not here," Morgan managed. "Not now." We have plans to make, battles to fight. When Draven is defeated, when you're safely on your throne. When all that's done, you'll be mine, Luca finished. Properly. Completely. Yours. Morgan agreed, the word feeling like both a promise and a surrender. Through the bond, she felt Alaric's acceptance, his determination to support them both, despite his own complicated feelings. Felt his love for his brother, his respect for Morgan's choice, his quiet heartbreak carefully contained. I'm sorry, she sent through the bond. Don't be, Alaric replied. I want you both to be happy. That's enough for me. It would have to be. Because war was coming. Draven would have heard by now about Selaine's defeat, about the Moonblood's return, about the heirs still living. He would be preparing his response, and so would they. The next morning, as they broke camp and prepared to move, Morgan stood with Luca and Alaric and looked toward Silverfang, toward home, toward the throne that had been stolen and the vengeance that had waited 15 years. We're really doing this, Alaric said. Starting a war. Not starting it, Luca corrected. Finishing it. Draven started this war the night he murdered our parents. We're just going to end it. Morgan felt their determination through the bond, felt their readiness. They'd trained for this, prepared for this. And now, bound together in ways that made them nearly unstoppable, they were finally ready. Then let's go finish it, she said. Let's go remind Draven what happens when you steal from wolves who have nothing left to lose. They set out as the sun rose, 3 wolves bound by blood and moonlight, heading toward a kingdom that had forgotten them. But they would remember. Soon, all of Silverfang would remember the sons of Theron, would remember the Moonblood who'd kept them safe. And Draven would learn that some debts could only be paid in blood and fire. The war for Silverfang had begun. Chapter 8. Fire over Silverfang. They spent 2 months gathering allies before they struck. Morgan used her Moonblood to track down wolves who'd been loyal to Theron, who'd chafed under Draven's cruel rule, but lacked the courage to rebel alone. With the rightful heirs returned and the legendary Moonblood at their side, courage came easier. The Riverside Pack joined them first, grateful for the warning that had saved their lives, eager to repay the debt. Then came scattered rogues, lone wolves who'd been driven from their packs by Draven's expansion. A few brave souls from Silverfang itself, slipping away in the night to join the growing rebellion. By the time they were ready to strike, they had 40 wolves willing to fight. Not enough to assault the castle directly, but enough to make a statement, enough to start a true war. They chose the night of the new moon, when Draven's werewolves would be weakest, when Morgan's Moonblood would be most stable. The plan was complex, relying on multiple coordinated strikes, but through the bond, the 3 leaders moved as one mind. What one knew, all knew. What one planned, all understood. They were unstoppable. The first target was the eastern garrison, a fortress Draven had built to control the trade roads. Luca led that assault with 15 wolves, their attack swift and brutal. Through the bond, Morgan felt the battle like she was there, felt Luca's fierce joy in combat, his alpha power overwhelming Draven's forces, his absolute confidence in their victory. The garrison fell in under an hour. Simultaneously, Alaric struck the northern supply depot, cutting off reinforcements and provisions to Silverfang Castle. His tactical genius showed in the precision of the attack, minimal casualties, maximum disruption. Through the bond, Morgan felt his satisfaction at a plan perfectly executed, and Morgan herself led the main force toward Silverfang Castle, not to assault it yet, but to let Draven see them. to let him know they were coming, to let fear do its work. They appeared on the hill overlooking the castle at dawn, 40 wolves strong, with Morgan at their head. Her eyes blazed silver in the growing light, her Moonblood presence making even distant guards stumble with its pressure. From the castle walls, soldiers stared in horror. Some recognized the heirs, others recognized the legend. The Moonblood had returned, and she'd brought vengeance with her. Morgan didn't attack, didn't need to. She simply stood there, letting them see, letting them fear. Then she turned and led her wolves away, disappearing into the forest like smoke. The psychological warfare had begun. Over the next 3 weeks, they struck again and again. Supply convoys, patrol posts, messenger ravens. Never the castle itself, but everything around it. Slowly, methodically, they isolated Draven's seat of power. And with each victory, more wolves joined their cause. Word spread that the heirs lived, that they were strong, that they were winning. Wolves who'd been too afraid to resist before found their courage. Draven's response was predictable. He sent his best soldiers to hunt them down, to end the rebellion before it could truly ignite. But hunting Morgan and the bonded brothers proved impossible. They could sense danger before it arrived, coordinate without words, fight as one unstoppable unit. The bond made them legends. It was after their 6th major victory, the liberation of a mining camp where Draven had forced wolves to work as slaves, that Lady Selene appeared again. Morgan sensed her first, felt the wrongness of her presence. Through the bond, she alerted Luca and Alaric instantly. She's here, northwest, approaching under white flag. It's a trap, Luca thought immediately. Probably, Morgan agreed, but we should hear what she has to say. They met Selene in a neutral clearing, the 3 bonded wolves on one side, Selene alone on the other. She looked different than she had at their last meeting, thinner, harder, with a desperation in her eyes that the bond helped Morgan read clearly. I come with an offer, Selene said without preamble. From Alpha Draven. He's willing to negotiate. Negotiate? Luca's voice dripped contempt. He murdered our parents, stole our kingdom, hunted us for 15 years. What exactly is there to negotiate? Your surrender in exchange for your lives. Both of you can leave Silverfang, go wherever you want, with gold and safe passage. No pursuit, no vengeance. You just go away. Through the bond, Morgan felt Luca's rage spike, felt Alaric's cold fury, felt her own Moonblood respond to their emotions, the curse marks beginning to glow. He's afraid, Morgan said softly, reading the truth in Selene's expression. Draven is actually afraid of us. He's being practical, Selene corrected. You have 40 wolves. He has 300. You've won small battles, but you can't win the war. He's offering you an out. Take it. No. Luca's voice was flat, final. You're throwing your lives away for pride. For justice, Alaric interrupted. For our parents. For every wolf Draven has killed or enslaved or broken. This isn't pride. It's duty. Selene's composure cracked. He'll destroy you. All of you. You think your little bond makes you invincible? Draven has killed bonded packs before. He knows how to break them. Then let him try, Morgan said, her silver eyes blazing. Go back to your alpha. Tell him the heirs are coming. Tell him the Moonblood is coming. Tell him to prepare, because we're done with raids and skirmishes. The next time we come to Silverfang, it will be to take back the throne or die trying. Selene stared at them, seeing their absolute conviction. You're all insane. Maybe, Luca said, but we're insane together, and that makes us dangerous. Selene left, and through the bond, The three of them felt each other's determination solidify into something unbreakable. They'd made their choice, committed fully. There was no turning back now. That night, as they made camp, the pack looked to them for a speech, for inspiration. Luca stepped forward, every inch his father's son. "Many of you knew my parents," he began, "knew Alpha Theron and Luna Astrid. They ruled with wisdom and compassion. They believed in protecting all wolves, not just the strong. They died because someone they trusted betrayed them." He paused, letting the anger ripple through the gathered wolves. For 15 years, that betrayer has sat on their throne, has ruled with cruelty and fear, has turned Silverfang from a beacon of honor into a symbol of oppression. But no more. Tomorrow we march on the castle. We take back what was stolen. We restore the rightful order. The wolves howled their approval. "Some of us will die," Luca continued, his voice steady. "I won't lie about that. Drevin has numbers on his side. But we have something he doesn't. We have the truth. We have justice. And we have each other." He looked at Morgan, at Alaric, his pack bond brothers. "I was 6 years old when my parents died. Morgan saved me that night. She raised me, taught me, kept me alive when the world wanted me dead. And now she stands beside me, ready to take back our kingdom." Morgan felt tears threaten at the raw emotion in his voice, in his thoughts, through the bond. "Alaric is my brother, my conscience, my anchor. Together, the three of us are bound by blood and moonlight. We are one, and we will not fail." More howls. The pack's energy was electric, ready for battle. "Tomorrow, we fight for Silverfang. We fight for our fallen. We fight for the future." Luca's eyes blazed amber. "And we will win!" "Because we have to. Because there is no alternative. Because I will not let my parents' sacrifice be for nothing." The howling reached a crescendo. Morgan felt it through the bond. The pack's absolute faith in Luca, their willingness to follow him into death itself. He was his father's son, a true alpha, and he was ready. They attacked at dawn, using the sunrise to blind the defenders. The castle gates, reinforced and thought impregnable, fell to Morgan's Moonblood-enhanced strength. She simply tore them from their hinges, the curse marks on her body blazing like silver fire. Then they poured in. 40 wolves against 300, impossible odds that they faced anyway. The battle was chaos. Morgan fought like a goddess of war, her staff long since replaced with a captured sword, her moonblood making her faster and stronger than any normal wolf. Through the bond, she fought in perfect synchronization with Luca and Alaric, the three of them covering each other's backs, their tactics seamless. They carved through Draven's forces like moonlight through shadow. The bond made them devastating. They could communicate instantly, coordinate complex maneuvers without words, draw on each other's strengths. When Morgan's curse began to spread from overuse, Luca and Alaric fed her their strength through the bond, stabilizing her. When Luca was surrounded, Morgan's moonblood presence scattered his attackers. When Alaric was injured, both Morgan and Luca felt it instantly and protected him while he recovered. They were unstoppable. But Draven's numbers were overwhelming. For every soldier they dropped, 2 more appeared. The pack was being pushed back, exhausted, bleeding. Morgan made a decision. Through the bond, she sent it to her brothers. "I'm going for Draven. If I kill him, the army loses heart. Cover me." "Too dangerous," Luca protested. "We should go together. The pack needs you here, needs leadership. Trust me." She felt his reluctance, his fear for her safety, but also his trust, his absolute faith in her. "End this," he sent, "and come back to me. Always," she promised. Morgan broke from the main battle, using her Moonblood to clear a path. Soldiers tried to stop her and failed. She was beyond them now, beyond normal strength, tapping into power she'd spent years suppressing. The curse marks spread across her chest, up her neck, creeping toward her heart. But the bond held it back, just barely, giving her time. She reached the throne room. Draven was there, massive and scarred, surrounded by his personal guard. He'd known she was coming. "The Moonblood herself," Draven said, his voice a rumble. "Come to die in the room where I killed her precious alpha. You murdered your king, your family, your blood." Morgan's voice echoed with power. "You forfeited any claim to honor that night." "Honor?" Draven laughed. "Honor is for the weak, for fools like Theron who thought mercy was strength. I made us strong, made us feared. You made us hated." Morgan began circling, her sword ready. "Every pack in the territory despises you. They follow from fear, not loyalty. That's not strength. That's tyranny. Call it what you want. I'm still king, and you're still an Omega who should have died with her cursed mother." He attacked, blindingly fast for something so large. Morgan barely blocked, the force of his blow driving her back. He was stronger than she'd expected, enhanced somehow. Through the bond, Alaric sent urgent information. "Blood magic. He's using blood magic to enhance himself. Be careful." Morgan gritted her teeth and met Draven's assault. They fought across the throne room, destroying furniture, cracking stone. He was powerful, experienced, vicious. But Morgan had something he didn't. She had 2 wolves feeding her strength through their bond, had the Moonblood curse enhancing her beyond normal limits, had 15 years of desperate survival, making her more dangerous than any trained soldier. She was losing herself, though. She could feel it. Every time she drew on the Moonblood, the curse spread. The cold consumed another piece of her humanity. Soon there would be nothing left but the monster. But not yet. Not until Draven was dead. They crashed through a window, falling to the courtyard below. The main battle raged around them. But Morgan had eyes only for Draven. He shifted mid-fall, his wolf form even more massive than his human one. Morgan shifted too, her wolf silver-grey with eyes that blazed like moons. They collided in a tangle of fangs and fury. Through the bond, she felt Luca and Alaric fighting desperately to reach her, cutting through soldiers, trying to provide backup. But there were too many enemies between them. She was on her own. Draven's jaws closed on her shoulder. Pain exploded through her, through the bond, making Luca scream her name from across the battlefield. Morgan twisted, using her smaller size to her advantage, going for Draven's throat. He threw her off. She hit the ground hard, ribs cracking. The curse marks blazed across her body, visible even through her fur now. She was running out of time. "Morgan, pull back." Luca's thought was desperate. "You're losing yourself." "Not yet. Almost there. Almost." She surged forward, fainting low, then going high. Draven fell for it. Her jaws closed on his throat, and she bit down with everything she had. Enhanced strength, Moonblood power, pure, desperate fury. Blood flooded her mouth. Draven thrashed, trying to throw her off, but Morgan held on, held on, held on, until finally he stopped moving. She released him and shifted back to human form, standing over his corpse. Around them, the battle was pausing as wolves realized what had happened. Their king was dead. The usurper had fallen. Morgan raised her voice, letting it echo with Moonblood power. "Draven is dead. The sons of Theron have returned. Lay down your weapons or join your false king in death." One by one, swords clattered to the ground. Draven's soldiers surrendered, seeing no point in dying for a dead king's cause. Through the bond, Morgan felt Luca and Alaric's relief, their joy, their love flooding toward her. She turned to find them, to celebrate their victory, and felt the curse explode outward. She'd used too much power. The cold wasn't creeping anymore. It was flooding, consuming, reaching her heart. The bond marks on her chest began to pulse violently as the curse tried to spread through the connection to Luca and Alaric. No, Morgan thought desperately. Not them. Please, not them. She slammed shut every mental barrier she had, trying to contain the curse, trying to keep it from flowing through the bond. It was agony, like trying to hold back a tidal wave with her bare hands. Luca reached her first, his face transforming from joy to horror as he saw the silver marks consuming her body. "Morgan, no! No! You said you had time." "I was wrong," she gasped. The cold was in her chest now, wrapping around her heart. "The bond is holding it back, but not stopping it. I can't. I don't know how much longer. We'll find a way. There is no way." The truth burst out of her. "I killed Draven. You have your throne back. That's all that matters. That's all I needed to do." "You matter!" Luca grabbed her shoulders. "You matter to me. I'm not losing you, not now, not after everything." Through the bond, Morgan felt his desperation, felt Alaric's matching fear as he arrived. Both of them were trying to feed her strength, trying to use the bond to fight the curse. It wasn't working. The curse was too strong, fed by years of suppressed power finally unleashed. Lady Selene appeared from the crowd of defeated soldiers, her face twisted with hate. "The Moonblood curse. I knew it. I knew it would destroy you in the end." Her laugh was vicious. "You can save them, or you can love him. You cannot have both, I told you that. But you didn't listen." Morgan stared at her, those words echoing. And suddenly, terribly, she understood what had to be done. The bond was the only thing keeping her alive, letting her resist the curse's final transformation. But it was also the only thing letting the curse reach Luca and Alaric. As long as they were connected, her madness would eventually become theirs. She had to break the bond. No. Luca sent through their connection, reading her intentions. "Don't you dare. Morgan, don't." "I love you," she sent back. "Both of you. You're my pack, my family, my everything. But I won't drag you into this darkness with me. We can fight it together." Alaric's thought was pleading. "That's what the bond is for. Please, Morgan, don't do this." "You can't love what was never meant to live," Morgan thought, remembering words she'd said to Luca once. "I was always borrowed time. But you're forever. You're the future of Silverfang, and I won't let my curse destroy that." With enormous effort, Morgan began pulling at the threads of their bond, trying to unravel what they'd woven together under the full moon. It felt like tearing out pieces of her soul, but she forced herself to continue. Luca grabbed her, physical contact making the bond flare stronger. "Stop! Please, Morgan, stop! I don't care about the throne. I don't care about any of it without you." "You will," Morgan said aloud, her voice breaking. "Someday you'll understand. Someday you'll be grateful I loved you enough to let go." She kissed him then, one last time, pouring everything into it. All her love, all her regret, all the futures they would never have. Through the bond, she felt his heart breaking alongside hers. Then she pulled away and used the last of her Moonblood power to sever the connection. The bond broke like a physical thing snapping. Luca and Alaric screamed, the pain of separation driving them to their knees. Morgan staggered, but stayed standing, feeling the cold rush in where their warmth had been. "I'm sorry," she whispered. I'm so sorry. The curse, no longer held back by the bond, completed its work. The silver marks covered her completely, and Morgan felt her humanity slipping away like water through her fingers. She turned and ran before she could hurt them, before she could become the monster that would destroy everything she loved. Behind her, Luca's scream echoed through the castle. Morgan! But she was already gone, disappearing into the chaos of the aftermath, a silver shadow fleeing into darkness. She had saved them, given them their kingdom, given them each other. It would have to be enough. Because Morgan, the Omega who'd become legend, the woman who'd loved too fiercely to survive it, she was no more. Only the Moonblood remained. And the Moonblood had no mercy, no love, no humanity, just power, and the curse, and an eternity of cold, endless night. Chapter 9. The Curse Awakens. Luca couldn't breathe, couldn't think. The absence where Morgan had been in his mind was agony, like someone had carved out a piece of his soul. Beside him, Alaric was doubled over, retching from the pain of the severed bond. Around them, wolves stared in confusion and concern. They'd won the battle, reclaimed the castle, but their leaders were on their knees, clearly suffering. What happened? One of the riverside wolves asked. Where's Morgan? Gone. The word tasted like ash. She's gone. Luca tried to stand and couldn't. Everything hurt. The bond breaking had done more damage than any physical wound ever could. Through their connection, they'd been 3 parts of one whole. Now they were just 2 broken pieces. Can you feel her at all? Alaric sent through their remaining twin bond, weaker than the 3-way connection had been, but still there. Nothing. It's like she never existed. But that wasn't quite true. Luca could still remember the feeling of her in his mind, the warmth of her presence. The memory was torture. Your Majesty. One of Draven's former soldiers, now surrendered and kneeling, spoke hesitantly. If you're looking for the Moonblood, she went north. Into the Darkwood. We saw her shift and run. The Darkwood, the deepest, most dangerous part of the forest, where rogues and worse things dwelt, where wolves went to disappear, where monsters were born. We have to go after her, Alaric said, finally managing to stand. We can't just let her... Let her what? Luca's voice was hollow. She made her choice, Alaric. She chose to protect us by leaving, by breaking the bond and condemning herself. So we're just giving up? After everything? What do you want me to do? Luca's control cracked. She severed the bond. We can't track her through it anymore. We can't sense her, can't find her, can't... His voice broke. She's gone. And I don't know how to fix it. Celine, still standing nearby, laughed bitterly. You can't fix it. The Moonblood curse has no cure. She'll transform completely within days, become a mindless beast of pure magic and instinct. Everything she was will be gone. Luca turned on her with such rage that she stumbled back. You knew. You knew what would happen if she used too much power. You goaded her into it. I told the truth. She chose love over her life. That's not my fault. Luca's wolf surged forward, demanding blood. His alpha power flooded out, making every wolf in the courtyard submit involuntarily. He moved toward Celine with murder in his eyes. Alaric caught his arm. Brother, no! Morgan wouldn't want this. Morgan isn't here to want anything. Exactly. She's not here. And if we waste time on vengeance, we'll never find her. Alaric's thoughts were steady, logical, the anchor they'd always been. We need to think, plan, figure out what to do next. Luca wanted to argue, wanted to kill Celine, wanted to burn the whole castle down. wanted to scream until his throat bled. But Alaric was right. Morgan had sacrificed herself to give them the throne, to give them a future. Wasting that gift on mindless rage would dishonor everything she'd done. He took a breath, then another, forced his wolf back under control. "Lock her up," he said, gesturing at Selene. "We'll decide her fate later. Secure the castle, tend the wounded, and someone bring me every book, every scroll, every scrap of information about the Moonblood curse that exists in Silverfang's libraries." The wolves jumped to obey, grateful for clear orders. Luca and Alaric made their way to what had been their parents' chambers, now covered in dust and cobwebs, abandoned since the Night of Blood. Standing there felt surreal. They'd won. They'd taken back their kingdom. But the victory tasted like ashes. "What if we can't save her?" Alaric asked quietly. "Then we die trying." Luca met his brother's eyes. "I'm not giving up on her. I don't care if it takes years. I don't care if it's impossible. I will find a way to break this curse." Over the following days, they worked frantically. Scholars brought every text that mentioned the Moonblood. Healers examined the bond marks that remained on their chests, dormant now, but still present. Mages experimented with counter curses and binding spells. Nothing worked. The Moonblood curse was ancient, primal, woven into the fabric of Morgan's very being. Breaking it would require power they didn't have, knowledge that had been lost for generations. But they refused to give up. On the third day after the battle, a scout returned with news. "Your Majesty, there are reports from the Darkwood. Wolves have seen something. A creature of silver and shadow. It doesn't attack unless provoked. But when it does..." The scout swallowed hard. "There are bodies, rogues mostly, torn apart. Whatever this thing is, it's incredibly dangerous." "That's her," Luca said immediately. "That's Morgan." "If she's killing wolves," Alaric began, "she's not killing. She's defending herself. The curse is making her more feral, but there's still something of her left. There has to be." Luca stood. "I'm going after her." "We're going after her," Alaric corrected. "I'm not letting you do this alone. Someone needs to rule Silverfang. The kingdom is unstable. Draven's supporters might rebel. There are 100 political crises that need..." "I don't care." Alaric's voice was firm. "Morgan raised us both, saved us both. We find her together, or not at all." They argued, but ultimately Luca knew Alaric was right. They'd always been strongest together. The twin bond, though weaker than the three-way connection had been, still made them formidable. They left that night, telling their advisors they were conducting a royal hunt. Only a few trusted wolves knew the truth, that they were searching for the woman who'd given them everything and asked for nothing in return. The Darkwood was terrifying even for experienced wolves. Ancient trees blocked out most sunlight, creating an eternal twilight. Strange sounds echoed through the undergrowth. And everywhere, there was the sense of being watched by something old and hungry. They tracked Morgan for 2 days before they found evidence of her presence, a clearing where 3 rogues lay dead, torn apart with inhuman strength. The bodies were still fresh. "She's close," Alaric said, studying the scene. "And she's not hiding her kills. That's either carelessness or..." "A warning," Luca finished. "She's warning other wolves to stay away." They pressed deeper into the wood. The feeling of being watched intensified. Then, just as the sun began to set, they saw her. Morgan stood in a small glade, illuminated by the last rays of daylight filtering through the canopy. She'd shifted to human form, but she was barely recognizable. Silver marks covered every inch of visible skin, glowing faintly. Her hair had turned completely white. Her eyes, those beautiful silver eyes, were now almost colorless, like looking at the moon itself. She was magnificent, terrifying, alien. "Morgan," Luca breathed. She turned at the sound of his voice, and for a moment, something flickered in those empty eyes. Recognition? Memory? Then it was gone, replaced by cold assessment. "Leave." Her voice echoed strangely, as if multiple voices spoke at once. "This is your only warning." "We're not leaving without you," Luca said, stepping forward carefully. "Please, Morgan. Come back with us. We'll find a way to cure this. There is no cure. There is only the curse. Only the power. Only—" She stopped, her expression twisting with what might have been pain. "You need to leave. While I can still control it. While I can still remember why I shouldn't kill you. You wouldn't kill us. You love us. I loved you. Morgan loved you. But Morgan is gone. I am what remains. And what remains has no love. Only hunger. Only cold." Her eyes blazed brighter. "Leave, now. Before I forget why you matter." Alaric stepped up beside his brother. "We're not afraid of you." "You should be." Morgan's form began to shift, not fully into wolf, but something between, larger than human, more powerful, with claws that gleamed silver. "I am the nightmare your ancestors warned about, the monster the Moon Queen became. And you are prey." She attacked. The brothers barely had time to shift before she was on them. Luca had fought Morgan before, had trained with her for years. This was nothing like that. She moved with inhuman speed, struck with devastating power, fought with the accumulated instincts of 1,000 predators. They couldn't hurt her without risking killing her. She had no such compunctions. Within minutes, both brothers were bleeding, exhausted, being driven back. Then something changed. Morgan's attack faltered. She froze mid-strike, her claw inches from Luca's throat. Her eyes, those empty, colorless eyes, suddenly filled with tears. "Run," she gasped, and it was her voice, really her. "Please, run." "I can't hold it much longer. I don't want to hurt you. I don't want—" The curse surged back, swallowing her words. But she'd given them enough warning. Luca and Alaric retreated, putting distance between them and the creature Morgan had become. From the safety of the tree line, they watched her collapse, curling into herself, clearly fighting some internal battle they couldn't see. "She's still in there," Alaric said. "Did you see?" "She's still fighting." "But for how long?" Luca's heart ached. "How long before the curse wins completely?" They returned to Silverfang empty-handed, but not hopeless. Morgan was still in there, still fighting, which meant there was still time. Over the following weeks, they visited her regularly. Sometimes she attacked on sight. Sometimes she fled. Occasionally, rarely, she would remain human long enough to speak a few words. Always warnings, always pleas for them to leave her alone. But they never did. Luca ruled Silverfang by day, restoring order, making peace with neighboring packs, undoing Draven's cruel policies. But every night, he ventured into the Darkwood, bringing supplies Morgan never accepted, trying to reach the woman he loved through the monster she'd become. It was Alaric who found the answer, buried in an ancient text in the deepest archive of the castle library. The Moon Queen's transformation wasn't inevitable, he explained, reading by candlelight. She chose it. She could have broken the curse, but it required a sacrifice she wasn't willing to make. What sacrifice? Luca demanded. Her power. All of it. To break the Moonblood curse, she would have had to give up every trace of magic, become completely ordinary, powerless. Alaric looked up. She refused, chose power over humanity. But Morgan isn't the Moon Queen. She's not power-hungry. She'd give it up in a heartbeat if she knew it was possible. Alaric's eyes lit with understanding. She thinks the curse is unbreakable because that's what her mother told her. What everyone told her. But what if it's not? What if there's a ritual, a way to strip away the Moonblood completely? They searched for 3 more weeks before they found it. A ritual described in fragmentary text, partially destroyed, barely legible. It required the cursed wolf, a full moon, and someone willing to act as anchor, to literally hold the cursed one to reality while the power was stripped away. It's dangerous, Alaric warned. The anchor could be consumed by the curse if they're not strong enough. Could die, or go mad. Then I'll do it, Luca said immediately. I was bonded to her once. I'll bond to her again. We'll both do it, Alaric insisted. Together. Like everything else. They prepared carefully, gathered the necessary components, waited for the full moon, and then, on the appointed night, they went into the darkwood one last time. Morgan sensed them coming. She met them in the glade where they'd first found her after the transformation, her cursed form massive and terrible in the moonlight. "Leave," she commanded, but there was less force behind it now, as if she was tired of fighting, tired of being alone. "No," Luca said simply. "We're here to save you, whether you want to be saved or not." He held up the ritual components, silver chains blessed in moonwater, herbs that would burn away magic, a blade to mix their blood once more. Morgan stared at them, and for just a moment she was fully herself again. "Luca, Alaric, this is foolish. The ritual could kill you." "We know," Alaric said. "You could die. For nothing. The curse might be too strong." "We know," Luca repeated. "We're doing it anyway." Tears streaked down Morgan's face, cutting through the silver marks. "Why?" "Why risk everything for me? I broke your bond. I left you. Because we love you," Luca said simply. "And love means never giving up. Ever. No matter what." Morgan looked at them, these boys she'd raised, these men who refused to let her go. And she made a choice. "Do it," she whispered. "Try to save me. Please. I don't want to be a monster anymore." They began the ritual as the full moon reached its peak. The process was agony. Morgan's screams echoed through the forest as the Moonblood was forcibly torn from her body. Luca and Alaric held the chains, anchoring her to reality, and felt the curse trying to flow into them through the connection. It was like holding on to lightning. Pure power, pure magic, trying to consume them. But they held on. Held on through pain and terror and the certain knowledge that this might kill them all. Held on because Morgan had held on for them for 15 years. Held on because love was worth dying for. The moon blazed overhead, and for a moment, everything was silver fire and screaming and power beyond comprehension. Then it was over. Morgan collapsed, unconscious. The silver marks were gone. Her hair had returned to its natural dark silver. Her eyes, when they flickered open briefly, were silver again. But the warm silver of her natural state, not the cold emptiness of the curse. She was human, fully human. The Moonblood was gone, and Luca and Alaric, exhausted but alive, knelt beside her as the sun began to rise. They'd done it. Against all odds, against ancient curses and impossible magic, they'd saved her. Now they just had to help her remember how to live. Chapter 10. Betrayal in the Moonlight. Morgan woke in a soft bed for the first time in months. The sensation was so unfamiliar that for a moment she thought she was dreaming. Then the memories rushed back. The ritual, the pain, the feeling of the curse being torn from her body. She sat up carefully, her muscles weak from weeks of living as a half-mad creature. She was in a chamber she recognized, one of the guest rooms in Silverfang Castle. Someone had dressed her in clean clothes, tended her wounds, left food and water beside the bed. Luca, she thought instinctively, reaching for the bond. There was nothing. Of course there was nothing. She'd broken their bond, and the ritual had taken away any chance of recreating it. The Moonblood was gone. Her power was gone. She was just Morgan now, just an Omega, ordinary and powerless. The door opened, and Alaric entered, carrying fresh bandages. He stopped when he saw her awake, relief flooding his face. "You're back. Really back." He moved to her side, checking her pulse, her eyes, clearly in healer mode. "How do you feel?" "Weak. Empty." Morgan's voice was rough. "The curse? Gone. Completely. We monitored you for 3 days to be sure, but there's no trace of it left. You're human again. Just human. Just human." It should have felt like freedom. Instead, it felt like loss. The Moonblood had been part of her for so long, she didn't know who she was without it. "Luca?" she asked, resting. The ritual drained him, drained both of us. But we'll recover. Alaric's expression was complicated. "He hasn't left your side except when I forced him to sleep. He was terrified you wouldn't wake up." Guilt twisted in Morgan's chest. "I'm sorry. For everything. For breaking the bond. For... You saved our lives. You have nothing to apologize for." Alaric sat on the edge of the bed. "But Morgan, we need to talk. About what happens now. Now you rule Silverfang. Restore your parents' legacy. Move forward." Morgan managed a weak smile. "You don't need me anymore." "Don't say that." Alaric's voice was sharp. "We'll always need you. Your pack. Family. That doesn't change just because the bond is gone." But it did change. Morgan could feel it. Without the Moonblood, without the bond, she was just ordinary. Not special. Not powerful. Not necessary. "The pack elders want to see you," Alaric continued. "There are questions about your role now, about..." He hesitated. "About whether you should stay in the castle." Morgan's heart sank. Of course, she was Omega, cursed bloodline, with no bond to the Alpha to protect her status. The elders would want her gone. "I understand," she said quietly. "I'll leave once I'm strong enough to travel." "You're not leaving." Luca's voice came from the doorway. He looked exhausted, dark circles under his eyes, but his expression was fierce. "I don't care what the elders say. You're staying." "Luca, I can't. I'm no one now. Just an Omega with no power, no bond, no..." "You're Morgan. The woman who saved us, who raised us, who sacrificed everything, including herself, to give us back our kingdom." Luca moved to her other side. "You think I'd let some pompous elders drive you away? You think I'd dishonor everything you did by abandoning you now? It's not abandoning. It's practical. I don't belong here anymore. You belong wherever I say you belong. And I say you belong here, with us." Luca took her hand, his touch gentle despite his angry words. "I don't care if you have power or not. I love you. That doesn't change." Morgan wanted to believe him, but she could feel the difference. Without the bond connecting them, without the Moonblood making her special, what was she? Just an aging Omega who'd outlived her usefulness. "We'll discuss this later," Alaric said diplomatically, sensing the tension. "First, you need to recover. Then we'll figure out the politics." Over the following days, Morgan regained her strength. But she also became aware of the whispers. The elders didn't approve of an unbonded Omega living in the castle. The pack was uncomfortable with her presence. She'd been a legend, a figure of awe and fear. Now she was just ordinary, and that made them uncertain. Luca defended her at every turn, but Morgan could see it wearing on him. He was trying to rebuild a kingdom while also fighting his own advisors over her right to stay. It wasn't sustainable. It was Alaric who came to her privately, his expression troubled. "The elders have made a proposal," he said carefully. "They're willing to accept your presence if you take a formal position. Become an official advisor to the throne. It would give you status, protection, a legitimate reason to stay." "But," Morgan prompted, hearing what he wasn't saying, "but they want assurances. That you're loyal to Silverfang. That you won't try to manipulate Luca through your relationship." Alaric looked uncomfortable. "They're worried you'll use his feelings for you to control the throne." Morgan laughed bitterly. "I have no power left. What could I possibly use to control anything?" "They don't see it that way. They see a woman who seduced the young alpha, who might bear his children and claim influence through them." "I never seduced—" Morgan stopped. "Wait. They think I'm trying to become Luna. Some of them, not all, but enough that it's a problem." Alaric met her eyes. "Morgan, I believe you. Luca believes you. But appearances matter in politics. And the appearance is that you're an ambitious Omega who's manipulated her way into the Alpha's favor." It was so absurd that Morgan wanted to laugh or cry. She'd spent 15 years raising these boys, keeping them alive, asking for nothing. And now she was being accused of manipulation? What do they want? For me to leave? Some of them. Others want Luca to take a proper mate, someone young, from a good bloodline, who can cement political alliances. Alaric's voice was gentle. "I'm sorry. I know it's not fair, but this is the reality we're facing." That night, Morgan stood on the castle balcony, watching the moon rise. She'd given up so much for this place. Her power, her humanity nearly, her bond with the two people she loved most. And it still wasn't enough. "You're thinking about leaving?" Luca appeared beside her, his voice resigned. "I'm thinking it might be best. For everyone. Not for me. Not for Alaric. Not for anyone who actually matters." Luca leaned against the railing. "The elders are old fools clinging to tradition. They'll come around." "Will they? Or will they keep pushing until you're forced to choose between me and your kingdom?" Morgan looked at him. "I won't let you make that choice, Luca. Your parents died for this throne. I won't let my presence threaten everything they sacrificed for." "Then what do you suggest?" "I can't just let you go. I won't." Morgan had been thinking about this for days. There was only one solution that satisfied everyone. "Make me your advisor. Officially, give me a role that's politically acceptable. And," she took a breath, "and take a proper mate. Someone the elders approve of. Someone who can give you heirs and alliances." Luca stared at her like she'd suggested he cut off his own arm. "You want me to mate someone else? I want you to rule successfully. That requires political marriages, alliances, compromises. I knew that when we started this. I just forgot. For a while." Morgan tried to smile. "We can still be friends. Still be pack. Just not. Not lovers. Not mates." Luca's voice was flat. "You're giving me up. I'm setting you free. There's a difference. I don't want to be free. I want you." He grabbed her shoulders, forcing her to look at him. "I don't care about alliances or bloodlines or what the elders think. I care about you. Only you. You're alpha now. You don't get to only care about what you want. You have responsibilities, duties. Your people need you to put Silverfang first. Morgan's voice cracked. And I need you to let me go with dignity. Please, Luca, don't make this harder than it already is. He stared at her for a long moment. Then his hands dropped, and something in his expression shuttered. If that's what you want, it's not what I want. It's what's necessary. Fine. I'll consider the elders' suggestions, take meetings with potential mates, play the political game. His voice was cold now, distant. But don't expect me to be happy about it. He left, and Morgan stood alone with the moon and her breaking heart. Over the following weeks, she watched Luca meet with various young she-wolves from prominent families, watched him be charming and attentive, every inch the eligible alpha. And every time, she felt something inside her crumble a little more. This was the right thing, the smart thing, the thing that would secure Silverfang's future. So why did it feel like dying? It was Alaric who found her crying in the archives one night, surrounded by books she wasn't actually reading. "This is killing you," he said quietly, sitting beside her. "I'm fine." "You're not. And neither is Luca. He's going through the motions, but his heart isn't in it. Everyone can see it. He'll adjust. Once he finds someone suitable, once he settles into ruling, he'll forget about me." "Is that what you really think? That what he feels for you is so shallow it can be replaced?" Morgan wiped her eyes angrily. "I think he's young and confused. I think he mistakes gratitude for love. And I think he deserves better than a powerless Omega who can't give him anything he needs." "You're wrong." Alaric's voice was firm. "About all of it. He loves you, really loves you. The kind of love that doesn't fade or transfer or adjust." He paused. "And you love him the same way. So why are you pushing him away?" "Because I have to. Because—" Morgan's control broke. "Because I can't be what he needs. I have no power, no status, no way to help him rule. All I can do is drag him down, make him weaker in the eyes of his pack. What kind of love is that?" "The kind that sacrifices for the other person's good. Which is exactly what you've always done." Alaric took her hand. "But Morgan, maybe it's time to stop sacrificing. Maybe it's time to be selfish for once." "I don't know how to be selfish." "Then learn. Because watching you and Luca tear yourselves apart for the sake of politics and propriety is destroying this pack more surely than any curse ever could." Before Morgan could respond, shouting erupted from the great hall. Both of them rushed to investigate, finding the space filled with angry wolves, elders, advisors, pack members, all arguing loudly. "What's going on?" Morgan demanded. The eldest of the council turned to her with cold eyes. "We've made our decision. The Omega must leave Silverfang. Tonight. By morning, if she's still within our borders, she'll be exiled formally." "You can't do that," Alaric started. "We can, and we have. The Alpha is too emotionally compromised to see reason, so we're making the decision for him." The elder's expression was implacable. "She's packless, bondless, and powerless. She has no right to remain in the castle or influence the Alpha's decisions. She leaves, or we'll remove her by force." Morgan's blood ran cold. This was a coup, essentially. A power play while Luca was occupied with political meetings. "Where is Luca?" she asked. "Indisposed. He'll be informed once you're gone." The elder smiled, sharp and cruel. "Don't worry. We've arranged everything. A small stipend, safe passage to neutral territory. You'll be comfortable, just elsewhere." Rage built in Morgan's chest. She'd given everything for Silverfang, for these ungrateful wolves who now threw her out like trash. But she had no power to fight them, no bond to protect her, no status to invoke. She was nothing, and they knew it. "I'll go," she said quietly, "but I want to say goodbye. To Luca and Alaric. No goodbyes. Clean breaks are easier." The elder gestured to guards. "Escort her to her chambers. She packs only what she can carry. And then she leaves." "This is wrong," Alaric said desperately. "You can't just—" "We can. We are. And if you interfere, Prince Alaric, we'll question your judgment as well." The threat was clear. Morgan met Alaric's eyes, sending a silent plea. "Don't fight this. Don't give them ammunition against you." He understood, nodded reluctantly. "I'll find Luca." "You'll stay right here," the elder commanded, "until this is handled." More guards appeared. Morgan realized with sick certainty that this had been planned carefully, timed for when Luca was occupied, when Alaric could be contained, when she was most vulnerable. She'd been outmaneuvered by politics and propriety. As guards escorted her to her chambers, Morgan felt a strange sense of déjà vu. She was being exiled again, just like her parents had been. Just like the cycle always repeated for wolves with silver eyes and cursed bloodlines. She packed quickly. Practical clothes, a few weapons, the small carved wolf figurine Luca had made for her when he was 7. Then she was being led through the castle, out a side gate, away from everything she'd fought for. She didn't resist. What would be the point? But as she crossed the border of Silverfang territory, as the castle disappeared behind trees and darkness, Morgan made herself a promise. She would survive. Again. Just like she always had. And someday, when Luca had his proper mate and his heirs and his secure throne, maybe he would think of her and smile. Maybe he would remember the broken Omega who'd loved him enough to let him go. It would have to be enough. Behind her, in the castle, Alaric finally broke free of the guards and found his brother. Luca listened to what had happened, his expression growing darker with each word. "They exiled her," he said, his voice deadly calm. "While I was distracted with their political games, they exiled the woman who saved us all." "We can bring her back," Alaric urged. "You're Alpha. Your word supersedes theirs." "My word means nothing if they won't respect it. If I force this, they'll revolt. Claim I'm unfit to rule." Luca's hands clenched. "But if I don't, if I just let her go, then the elders win. They get to control who stays and who goes, who has influence. They turn you into a puppet king." Luca stared out the window at the darkening forest. Somewhere out there, Morgan was alone, vulnerable, cast out by the very kingdom she'd bled for. "Then I guess it's time to remind them who the Alpha is," he said softly. "And what happens when you threaten what's mine." The elders had made a critical mistake. They'd assumed Luca was like his father, too noble, too bound by tradition to truly fight them. But Luca had been raised by Morgan, and Morgan had taught him that sometimes, to protect what you love, you had to be willing to burn everything else down. The kingdom of Silverfang was about to learn that lesson. Chapter 11. The Fall of the Alpha King. Morgan walked through the night, exhaustion making every step an effort. Without her Moonblood, without the bond, she was just an ordinary wolf, tired, scared, and alone. She made it to the border forest before she had to stop, collapsing against a tree to rest. This was how it ended, she thought bitterly, not in glory or sacrifice, but in quiet defeat, exiled by politics, cast aside when she was no longer useful. A branch snapped nearby. Morgan forced herself upright, reaching for the knife at her belt. Without her power, any threat was potentially fatal. A figure emerged from the shadows, Lady Selene, looking worse for wear after her imprisonment, but free somehow. "Well, well," Selene said, her voice dripping venom. "The mighty Moonblood, brought low. How does it feel to be powerless?" "What do you want?" Morgan asked wearily. "Revenge, justice, call it what you like." Selene moved closer, something glinting in her hand. A blade, silver and cruel. "You took everything from me. My mate, my kingdom, my future. Now I'm going to take the one thing you have left." "I have nothing left to take." "You have your life, and the satisfaction of knowing you saved those brats." Selene's smile was vicious. "I'm going to take both. I'm going to kill you, then I'm going to kill them. Slowly. And the last thing you'll know is that your sacrifice meant nothing." She lunged. Morgan dodged, but without her enhanced speed, she was too slow. The blade caught her side, pain exploding through her. She stumbled, fell, tried to roll away. Selene was on her, the blade rising for a killing blow. Morgan closed her eyes, thinking of Luca, of Alaric, of 15 years that had been worth it, despite this ending. Then Selene screamed. Morgan's eyes snapped open to see Alaric, having appeared from nowhere, his blade through Selene's back. The woman crumpled, dead before she hit the ground. "Morgan!" Alaric was at her side immediately, pressing his hand against the wound to stop the bleeding. "Hold on. Just hold on. How did you—" "Broke arrest. Tracked you. I wasn't letting you face exile alone." His hands were steady despite his fear. "This is deep. We need to get you to a healer. Can't go back to Silverfang. Then somewhere else. Anywhere else. Just—" He stopped, hearing something. Footsteps, many of them. They were surrounded by pack wolves, led by the elder who'd orchestrated the exile. "Prince Alaric," the elder said coldly. "Step away from the Omega. She's been exiled. Helping her is treason." "Treason?" Alaric laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You exile the woman who saved your kingdom, who kept your rightful heirs alive for 15 years, and you call helping her treason?" She was packless, bondless, powerless. She had everything. Alaric stood, positioning himself between Morgan and the guards. She had loyalty, honor, courage, everything you lack, and you threw her away because she made you uncomfortable. This is not your decision to make. It's not yours either. A new voice cut through the night. Luca emerged from the darkness, and his presence made every wolf present instinctively submit. "You've gone too far. All of you." "Your Majesty," the elder tried. "We were only thinking of the kingdom's best interests. By exiling the woman who saved it. By making decisions without my knowledge or consent. By threatening my brother when he tried to do the right thing." Luca's eyes blazed amber. "No. This ends now. You're too emotionally compromised to—" "I'm not compromised. I'm finally seeing clearly." Luca moved to stand beside Alaric, both brothers forming a wall in front of Morgan. "Here's what's going to happen. Morgan returns to Silverfang. She's given full status as royal advisor, with all the protections and privileges that entails. Anyone who objects can challenge me directly. As Alpha. Right here, right now." The elder paled. Challenging an Alpha was essentially a death sentence. Very few could win such a battle. "You would risk civil war over an Omega?" he asked. "I would risk everything for her. She did the same for us. That's what loyalty means. What honor means. Concepts you seem to have forgotten." The other wolves shifted uncomfortably. Some looked ashamed, others defiant. Furthermore, Luca continued, his voice carrying alpha command, there will be a full investigation into tonight's events. Who authorized the exile? Who allowed Celine to escape? Who gave the orders that led to attempted murder of a wolf under the kingdom's protection? You can't. I can. I am. And if I find that this was a coordinated effort to undermine my rule, those responsible will face exile themselves, or worse. Luca's expression was cold as winter. Test me. Please. I would love an excuse to clean house. Silence. Then, slowly, wolves began to back down, kneeling, submitting. As for the question of Morgan's status, Luca said, his voice softer now, let me make this absolutely clear. She is mine, under my protection, part of my pack. And I don't care if that makes you uncomfortable. I don't care if it violates tradition. This is who I am. This is who we are. Accept it, or leave. He knelt beside Morgan, his hands gentle as he checked her wound. Can you walk? I think so, Morgan managed. Then let's go home. All three of us, together. Luca helped her stand, Alaric supporting her other side. They walked through the assembled wolves, none daring to stop them. By the time they reached the castle, Morgan's wound had been properly bound and the immediate danger had passed. But the political danger was just beginning. Over the following days, Luca made good on his promises. Investigations revealed that several elders had conspired to exile Morgan, hoping to force Luca into a more controllable political marriage. Some had even arranged Celine's escape, hoping she would eliminate the Omega problem permanently. Those elders were exiled. Others who'd supported them were stripped of their positions. Luca rebuilt his council with younger wolves, ones who'd actually fought in the war, who'd seen Morgan's sacrifice firsthand. The kingdom grumbled. Some protested. A few challenged. Luca crushed every challenge with brutal efficiency, proving he was his father's son, but with Morgan's ruthlessness when protecting what mattered. 3 months after the exile attempt, Silverfang had stabilized under new leadership. The old guard had been replaced. The kingdom, though uncertain, was accepting its young alpha's authority, and Morgan held her position as royal advisor, her counsel valued, her presence accepted if not universally loved. It should have been enough. She was safe, protected, valued. But Luca was miserable. Morgan saw it in his eyes when he thought no one was looking, felt it in the distance he maintained between them, carefully professional now. He'd fought for her right to stay, but he hadn't fought for them, for the relationship the elders had tried to destroy, because he was still bound by duty, still trying to be the alpha his kingdom needed rather than the man he wanted to be. It was Alaric who finally confronted him, unable to watch his brother suffer any longer. You saved her, Alaric said, cornering Luca in the war room. You brought her back. You secured her position, but you're still losing her. Every day she slips a little further away. What would you have me do? I gave her safety, security, everything she needs. Everything except what she wants. You. Alaric shook his head. You're both so busy being noble and self-sacrificing that you're destroying yourselves. I'm doing what's best for the kingdom. Damn the kingdom. Alaric rarely raised his voice, and the outburst shocked them both. Our parents died for this throne, yes, but they also loved each other, deeply, truly. They would never want you to sacrifice happiness for politics. It's not that simple. It is exactly that simple. You love her. She loves you. Stop making it complicated. The elders who matter support you. The ones who don't are gone. You've rebuilt the council. You have the authority. Alaric grabbed his brother's shoulders. So use it. Stop being Alpha for one moment and just be Luca, the man who loves Morgan, the man she loves back. Luca stared at his brother, something breaking in his carefully maintained control. What if I'm not enough for her? What if she needs more than I can give? Then you let her decide that. You give her the choice. But right now, you're choosing for both of you. And that's not fair. To either of you. That night, Luca found Morgan on the same balcony where they'd had their conversation months before. She was watching the moon again, as she always did. Beautiful night, he said quietly. It is. Morgan didn't look at him. You should be resting. The trade negotiations tomorrow will be brutal. I didn't come here to talk about negotiations. Then what? Us. Luca moved to stand beside her. Or rather, the lack of us. Morgan's breath caught. Luca. I've been trying to do the right thing, be the proper alpha, put the kingdom first. He turned to face her fully. But I'm realizing that I'm still making your choices for you. Deciding what's best. Protecting you from my own feelings. You're protecting yourself. And the kingdom. That's smart. It's cowardly. Luca took her hand, and Morgan's heart stuttered at the contact. I fought the elders for your safety. I rebuilt the council. I secured your position. But I didn't fight for this. For us. Because I was afraid. Afraid of what? That you didn't want me anymore. That without the bond, without your power, what you felt was just obligation. Gratitude for saving you from the curse. His voice was raw. That I was just a duty you'd fulfilled, and now you wanted to move on? Morgan stared at him, stunned. You thought I didn't want you? Did you? Do you? Luca's amber eyes searched hers desperately. Because I need to know, Morgan. I can't keep doing this dance. I need to know if there's still an us to fight for. For a moment, Morgan couldn't speak. Then everything poured out. All the fear, all the loneliness, all the desperate love she'd been suppressing. I've wanted you every moment since you kissed me, she said, her voice breaking. I pushed you away because I thought that's what you needed. What the kingdom needed. I have no power, no special abilities, nothing to offer except myself. And I was terrified that wouldn't be enough. You are everything. Luca pulled her close. Power or no power, bond or no bond, you are everything I want, everything I need. I'm too old for you. You're perfect for me. The kingdom will never fully accept. Then they'll have to learn to live with disappointment. Luca cupped her face. I'm done sacrificing us for politics. Done pretending I don't love you. Done being anything except exactly what I am. A wolf who loves you beyond reason, beyond sense, beyond everything. Morgan felt tears streaming down her face. Luca, marry me. Bond with me. Be my mate, my partner, my everything. I don't care what anyone thinks. I don't care about tradition or bloodlines or politics. I just care about you. You're supposed to marry someone young, someone who can give you heirs. I'm supposed to marry who I love, and I love you. Only you. Always you. His forehead pressed against hers. Say yes, Morgan. Please. Say yes and stop running. Stop sacrificing. Stop being noble. Just say yes. Morgan looked into his eyes and saw her future. Saw challenges and difficulties and political battles. Saw wolves who would never approve. Traditions they would have to break. Compromises they would have to make. But she also saw love. Real, fierce, unbreakable love. And maybe, after 15 years of sacrifice, she was allowed to be selfish. Just this once. Yes, she whispered. Yes, I'll marry you. Bond with you. Be yours, if you're sure. I've never been more sure of anything. He kissed her then, properly, deeply, the way he'd wanted to for months. And Morgan kissed him back, letting herself feel everything she'd been suppressing, want and need and desperate love. They were still kissing when Alaric found them, clearing his throat loudly. So, he said, grinning, I take it you two worked things out. They broke apart, both breathless, both smiling. We're getting married, Luca announced. Thank the moon. Finally. Alaric hugged them both. I thought I'd have to lock you in a room together until you sorted yourselves out. The kingdom will object, Morgan warned. Let them object. We'll handle it. Together. Luca kept his arm around her waist. The three of us. Like we've always done. The three of us, Alaric agreed. And Morgan, standing between the two men she loved most in the world, finally let herself believe it. She was home. She was safe. She was loved. And this time, she wasn't going anywhere. Chapter 12. The Omega's Vow. The bonding ceremony was held under the full moon, 3 months after Luca's proposal. It was smaller than a royal mating usually would be. Just the pack members who supported them, allies from neighbouring territories, and wolves who'd fought in the war. The old guard was notably absent. They'd made their disapproval clear, but Luca had made it clearer that he didn't care. Morgan stood in a simple white dress, her silver hair braided with moonflowers. She felt strangely nervous, despite everything they'd been through. This was different. This was permanent. Luca looked magnificent in formal robes, his dark hair tied back, his amber eyes fixed on her with absolute devotion. Beside him, Alaric stood as witness, proud and bittersweet all at once. The ceremony was conducted by the eldest wolf who still supported them, a female who'd known Theron and Astrid, who remembered when love mattered more than politics. We gather under the moon's light, she intoned, to witness the bonding of Alpha Luca, son of Theron, and Morgan, daughter of Elena. By ancient rite and new choosing, they come together to form a bond that cannot be broken by time or trial. Luca spoke first, his voice carrying clearly. I, Luca, son of Theron and Astrid, heir to Silverfang, take Morgan as my mate, my partner, my chosen one. I vow to honour her, protect her, love her all the days of my life. By moon and blood, by fire and faith, I bind myself to her. Morgan's turn. Her voice shook slightly, but the words came true. I, Morgan, daughter of Elena, keeper of the Moonblood line, take Luca as my mate, my alpha, my chosen one. I vow to stand beside him, support him, love him, all the days of my life. By moon and blood, by fire and faith, I bind myself to him. They clasped hands, and the elder tied a silver cord around their wrists, the symbolic binding that represented their choice to intertwine their lives. By the authority granted to me by pack law and moon blessing, I declare you bonded, mated. One pack, one purpose, one love. She smiled. You may seal your bond. Luca pulled Morgan close and kissed her deeply, the crowd erupting in howls of approval. When they broke apart, both wore matching smiles, fierce and joyful and victorious. They'd done it. Against tradition, against expectation, against every obstacle. They'd chosen each other. The celebration afterward was wild and joyous. Wolves danced under the moon, food and drink flowed freely, and for the first time in years, Silverfang felt truly alive. Morgan found herself pulled into dance after dance, accepting congratulations from wolves who doubted her, but now saw the happiness radiating from their alpha. Luca never strayed far, his hand finding hers whenever possible, his eyes tracking her through the crowd. It was late when Alaric found her alone for a moment, watching the celebrations with a soft smile. "Happy?" he asked. "Incredibly. Good. You deserve it. Both of you." Alaric's expression was complicated, genuine happiness mixed with something more melancholic. "For what it's worth, I think you're perfect for each other." Morgan studied him carefully. "And what about you? When do you find your perfect match?" "Someday, maybe. Right now, I'm content being the brother who keeps you both grounded." He smiled, but it didn't quite reach his eyes. "Someone has to be practical while you two are disgustingly in love." Before Morgan could respond, Luca appeared, sweeping her away for another dance. But she caught Alaric's expression as they spun away, proud, loving, and quietly heartbroken. She made a mental note to talk to him later, to make sure he knew his feelings mattered, that his happiness was just as important. But for tonight, she let herself be swept up in celebration and joy. Later, when the party finally wound down and they retired to the chambers that were now theirs, not just Luca's, but theirs together, Morgan felt the weight of the moment. This was real, permanent, a new beginning. Luca seemed to sense her nervousness. "Having second thoughts?" he asked gently, closing the door behind them. "Never. Just processing. This is different than the bond was. More real, somehow. Because it's a choice. Not magic forcing us together, but active decision every day." Luca moved closer. "Are you ready for that? For choosing me every day, even when it's difficult?" "I've been choosing you since you were 6 years old and hiding behind your mother's skirts." Morgan smiled. "I think I can manage. That was different. You were my guardian then. And now I'm your mate, your equal, your partner." She reached up to touch his face. "Still ready to make this choice. Every day. For all our days." Luca kissed her softly, reverently. "I love you. Have I mentioned that recently?" "Once or twice, but I don't mind hearing it again." "I love you," he repeated against her lips. "I love you. I love you. I love you." They came together slowly, tenderly, taking time to explore and discover each other without the urgency of stolen moments or the pressure of crisis. This was different. This was them choosing each other, consciously, completely. And when morning came, Morgan woke, wrapped in Luca's arms, sunlight streaming through the windows, feeling more at peace than she'd felt in decades. The following months brought challenges, as expected. Some wolves never accepted their bonding. Political rivals used it to undermine Luca's authority. Neighbouring packs questioned Silverfang's stability, but Luca and Morgan faced it together. She provided counsel, strategy, and the kind of ruthless practicality that balanced his nobility. He provided strength, authority, and unwavering support for every decision she made. They were a team, a true partnership. And gradually, even the doubters had to admit, they worked. Silverfang prospered under their joint leadership. Alliances were formed, trade flourished. The wolves who'd suffered under Draven's rule finally began to heal. And when Morgan discovered she was pregnant a year after their bonding, impossible, they'd thought, given her age and the damage the curse had done, the entire kingdom celebrated. Their daughter was born on a night of the full moon, with silver eyes that marked her as special. Not cursed, the healers determined, but blessed. The Moonblood had been purified through love and sacrifice, and what remained was pure magic without the darkness. They named her Astrid, after Luca's mother. And when Morgan held her daughter for the first time, she understood why her own mother had fought so hard to survive, to keep her alive despite the curse. Some loves were worth any sacrifice, any pain, any curse. She's perfect, Luca breathed, looking at his daughter with wonder. She is, Morgan agreed, and she'll never be alone like we were. She'll have pack, family, love, everything we fought for. 2 years later, their son was born, amber-eyed like his father, fierce from birth. They named him Theron, completing the circle. And Morgan, who'd spent so much of her life alone and afraid, found herself surrounded by love, by pack, by the family she'd built from blood and moonlight and stubborn determination. Alaric remained with them, becoming the best uncle anyone could ask for. He eventually found his own mate, a quiet healer from Riverside Pack, who balanced his intensity with her calm. And though he'd loved Morgan once, he found his own happiness, his own peace. The three of them, Luca, Morgan, and Alaric, remained the core of Silverfang's leadership, the bonded trio, people called them, even though the magical bond was gone. Because some bonds didn't need magic. Some bonds were forged through choice and love and shared sacrifice. Years passed. Astrid and Theron grew strong and wild, trained by their mother in survival and strategy, by their father in leadership and honor. The kingdom prospered. Peace reigned. And every full moon, Morgan would stand on the balcony and look up at the moon that had cursed her bloodline for generations. But she felt no anger, no resentment, because that curse had led her here, to this life, to this love, to this impossible, beautiful family. "What are you thinking?" Luca would ask, wrapping his arms around her from behind, a ritual they'd developed over the years. "That I'm grateful," Morgan would answer, "for everything, even the hard parts, because they led me to you." "We led each other," Luca would correct, kissing her temple, "through darkness and blood and impossible odds. And we'd do it again, wouldn't we?" In a heartbeat. They would stand there together, watching the moon and the stars, until the cold drove them inside to warmth and family and the life they'd built together. Morgan lived to see her grandchildren born, Astrid's twins, fierce and bright, and Theron's triplets, each more troublesome than the last. She lived to see Silverfang become the most prosperous kingdom in the territories, lived to see the story of the Moonblood and her alpha become legend. And when she finally died, peacefully in her sleep at the age of 73, with Luca's hand in hers and her children and grandchildren surrounding her bed, she died knowing she'd done the impossible. She'd survived. She'd loved. She'd won. Luca lived another 5 years after her passing, ruling wisely but with a piece of his heart missing. On the night he died, another peaceful death, surrounded by family, his last words were, "I'm coming, my love. Wait for me." They were buried side by side under a great oak tree on the castle grounds, and on their shared headstone, carved in silver, were the words, "Morgan and Luca, Moonblood and Alpha-bound by choice, not fate, united in death as in life." Below that, in smaller letters, "Some wolves are born to love, others are born to burn." These two did both. Epilogue. The legend of the Moonblood. 300 years after Morgan's death, wolves still told the story. In taverns and around campfires, in castle halls and forest clearings, they spoke of the Omega who became legend. The cursed one who broke her curse through love. The woman who raised kings and changed kingdoms. Some versions claimed she never lost her power, that the Moonblood still ran in her bloodline, blessing her descendants with silver eyes and unusual abilities. Other versions said she was just an ordinary wolf who happened to be in the right place at the right time. But all versions agreed on one thing: she loved fiercely, sacrificed completely, and refused to let destiny dictate her story. Young wolves grew up hearing about Morgan and Luca, about the bond that transcended magic, about love that conquered curses and kingdoms and impossible odds. And sometimes, on nights of the full moon, travelers in the Silverfang territories claimed to see two wolves running together through the forest, one silver-grey with eyes that glowed, one massive and dark with amber eyes. They ran side by side, perfectly synchronized, joyful in their eternal hunt. The locals would smile and say, "That's the Moonblood and her alpha, still together, still running, still loving." Some dismissed it as superstition, but others knew better, because some bonds don't break with death. Some loves transcend the boundaries between worlds, and some stories are true in ways that have nothing to do with facts. In the great library of Silverfang Castle, there was a special section dedicated to Morgan's life. Her journals, carefully preserved, letters between her and Luca, records of her time as royal advisor, and most precious of all, a small wooden wolf carving made by a 7-year-old boy who'd wanted to thank the woman who saved him. Morgan's descendants, and there were many, for Astrid and Theron had been prolific, visited that section often. They would read the journals, trace the letters, hold the little carving, and remember. Remember that they came from strength, from sacrifice, from love that refused to quit. One such descendant, a young girl with silver eyes and fierce determination, stood in the library on her 16th birthday. She'd just had her first shift, felt her wolf wake for the first time, and she was afraid. Afraid of what those silver eyes meant. Afraid of the power she could feel building inside her. Her mother found her there, reading Morgan's journal, tears streaming down her face. "She was scared too," the girl said. "My great-great-great-grandmother. She was so scared of what she was, of hurting people, of being a monster." "She was," her mother agreed, sitting beside her. But she didn't let fear stop her. She used her power to protect people, to change the world, to love fiercely despite everything. "What if I can't do that? What if I'm not strong enough?" "Then you learn. You grow. You find people who love you and let them help you." Her mother smiled. That's what Morgan did. She didn't save the world alone. She built a family, a pack, a partnership, and together they were unstoppable. The girl thought about that, about Morgan and Luca, about love and sacrifice and choosing to be brave even when you were terrified. "Do you think the legends are true?" she asked, "about them still running together? Still being together somehow?" Her mother looked out the window at the full moon rising. "I think that when you love someone the way they loved each other, death is just another adventure, just another challenge to face together." She squeezed her daughter's hand. "And I think that kind of love never really dies. It just changes form." "I want that," the girl whispered. "That kind of love, that kind of story." "Then go find it. Be brave enough to choose it when it comes. And don't let anyone, not elders, not tradition, not even your own fear, tell you that you don't deserve it." Her mother's voice was firm. "You come from a line of wolves who loved fiercely and refused to compromise. You carry Morgan's blood, her strength, her stubborn determination to build the life she wanted rather than accepting the one she was given." The girl smiled, feeling something shift inside her. Not just fear anymore, but possibility, hope. "Thank you," she said. "Don't thank me. Thank her." Her mother gestured to the journal. "She's the one who showed us all how to be strong." That night, the girl stood on her balcony and looked up at the full moon. And maybe it was imagination, maybe it was wishful thinking, but she could have sworn she heard it. A distant howl, joyful and free, answered by another howl in perfect harmony. The Moonblood and her alpha still running, still together, still showing future generations that love was worth fighting for. The girl closed her eyes and made a promise to herself, to her ancestor, to the moon watching overhead. She would be brave. She would love fiercely. She would build her own impossible story. Because that's what it meant to carry the Moonblood legacy. Not a curse. Not anymore. A blessing. A challenge. A promise that some loves were strong enough to change everything. And as the moon shone down on Silverfang, on the castle and the forest and the wolves who called it home, the old story continued to weave itself into new ones. Because legends never die. They just inspire new generations to be brave enough to write their own. And somewhere, in whatever realm souls go when their bodies are done, Morgan and Luca ran together through eternal forests, hunting and laughing and loving, free from curses and politics and all the struggles that had defined their mortal lives. They had earned their peace, their forever, their happily ever after. And the moon, watching as always, smiled, because it had witnessed their story from beginning to end, had seen the cursed Omega and the rightful heir transform themselves and their world through sheer determination and love that refused to break. Some wolves were born to love, others were born to burn. Morgan and Luca had done both, had loved fiercely enough to burn away every obstacle, had burned bright enough to light the way for generations to come. And in the end, that was all any wolf could hope for, to love completely, live fully, and leave the world better than they found it. The Moonblood had done all three, and her story would echo through the ages, inspiring, challenging, reminding every silver-eyed wolf that curses could be broken and destinies could be chosen. All it took was courage, love, and the willingness to fight for the life you wanted rather than accepting the one you were given. The moon watched, the wolves howled, and the legend lived on, forever. The end. Author's note. Thank you for reading Moonblood, The Outcast's Vow. This story of love, sacrifice, and choosing your own destiny is dedicated to everyone who has ever felt cursed by circumstance, but found the strength to transform their story. May you all find your pack. May you all love fiercely. And may you all remember, you are never just what others say you are. You are what you choose to become.